of election voting.
Rishi Sunak turns up the heat on reform as he battles Nigel Farage over undecided voters.
Lost without a trace, Jay Slater's family left distraught as Spanish police call off the search for him.
And Shania Twain rocks the legend spot at Glastonbury as the iconic festival wraps up for another year.
Hello, a wet start across Scotland, Northern Ireland and parts of northern England. You can put away the raincoats in the south though, with plenty of dry weather on the cards. Stay tuned for the details.
Well, just after 6 o'clock, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster and this is GB News Breakfast.
Well, how were you last night? Were you watching? Of course you were. Paul Coit here for us this morning. England 2, Slovakia 1. Who would have thought?
I know. It was not good. This is the thing. It took about paper over the cracks. Every newspaper and everybody's going to be saying, oh, it was amazing and what a great result. And
well, it was a great goal by Bellingham.
It was a fantastic goal. It's just one of the great goals. And the thing is, there's all these cliches about great players that step up, but it's true, as you know. Cometh the hour, etc., etc.
But if he had have missed that, that was them out. They were gone. There was a minute and a half left to the end.
1 minute, 26 seconds left of the game.
But it's always the way in these big tournaments that it always comes right at the end.
It's not.
No?
No, where else does it happen?
Well, I always feel like the last few minutes is the most important part of a match to watch, because quite often there's a last
sport
minute.
that happens in is in basketball, when somebody wins by a point all the time.
Backwards, forwards.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, we always remember, I mean, I know what you're saying, because we remember late goals, because that's what everybody would talk about. There is no feeling. Look, this is the goal. I mean, look at the position Jude Bellingham is in. That's actually one of my favourite positions there, that usually just when I get up in the morning. But there he is. I mean, it was unbelievable. And then the left leg came round, and then it was the swivel, and it was kind of like a volley, but a sort of an overhead kick. But the way he did it was amazing, and it came over from a throw, and it was just a brilliant, brilliant goal.
And then let's use your word, momentum. England have the momentum then, and Slovakia are sunk.
That's it. And that was straight after the break. So let's not forget that kept us in the game. So that was 1-1, goes to extra time, and then, again, another great player steps up. He'd been quiet, just like Jude Bellingham was, and our friend Harry Kane goes up and scores. I mean, let's face it, it wasn't over then, because even then Slovakia had some chances. But on the whole, it was not a great performance by England, but really it was. There's nothing like a late goal. There is no feeling.
But you're going to have to go through all of this again on Saturday. This time against
I don't think I can bear it, actually. I don't think I can bear it going through it.
Because I don't think England are going to change anything.
I think there may be a few tweaks, but the thing is, with Gareth Southgate, everybody's screaming. People that know football, people that have no idea about football, just screaming at the TV, make some changes, make some changes. So he doesn't. He does in the end, but then is he vindicated through that?
No, he's not.
I don't think so.
This business, and I was texting you last night, this playing from side to side, from left to right, from right to left, it's all about possession. I looked at one stage, England had 70-odd% of possession.
Yeah.
Doing what with it? There was still one
You
down.
and me could play at the back and maybe pass to each other and have 70% possession, but we wouldn't score.
Yeah.
But possession means nothing. I'm looking at Spain last night. You see them go forward. But when we talk about momentum, it did come. There was that point, wasn't there? It wasn't long, but it was when we went into extra time that all of a sudden, now we're going forward, and maybe that has now been either seen by the players, maybe this is what it's all about, and Southgate decided, because that's what we've got to do. We've got to show them how good we are in attack.
Surely they're playing to his tactics.
This is the big question. I'm looking at it and thinking, is this how he wants England to play? But
and he can be justified now because he says that they won.
But it's just not enjoyable watching, and there's got to be part of it that is enjoyable. And, you know, Switzerland next weekend, we should walk that, surely. I mean, they're a tiny country.
No, but
they're tiny. We're England. England.
Yeah.
You know, it just blows my mind that we're worried.
Slovakia are 46th in the world, and we had Slovenia who were even for 57th.
Did Slovakia used to be Czechoslovakia?
It was, yeah. Can you imagine if they were still together?
Yes.
Oh, my God,
Yes.
then we'd be in big trouble. There's a whole new political thing to discuss, but maybe I'll leave that for right now.
OK, well, it's Saturday, 5 o'clock, England against Switzerland. We'll have something to say about that one. And I'll see you again, Paul, about
OK, I look forward to it.
Thank
And Wimbledon
you.
starts. We'll talk
yeah.
about that shortly too.
Right, in other news, Marine Le Pen has declared her party triumphant in the French elections, virtually, in her words, wiping out Emmanuel Macron during the first round of voting yesterday.
Now, it's a bruising backfire for Macron. He called this snap vote following Le Pen's surge in the recent European elections.
Well, closer to home, Rishi Sunak is turning up the heat against right-wing insurgents in the UK as he aims to win over the millions of undecided voters.
Here's Deputy Political Editor for The Mail on Sunday. We say good morning to Anna Mikalova. Anna, good morning.
Morning.
To you. A very interesting situation. The fact that it's not over. They've had an election, but there's still part two to come.
Yes, there is. I mean, this is obviously a curious thing about the French system, that now the parties can regroup and effectively decide how they go in. So there's talk among the left parties to avoid splitting the vote in the second round by basically pulling out of in some areas. But you know, overall the narrative is very clear. It's a humiliation for Emmanuel Macron. It's going to really put into question once again why he even called this election, because it seemed like a sort of bold roll of the dice that has not worked at
But he
all.
stays as president.
He does, but there's going to be a lot of pressure on him now, frankly. I mean, his personal authority is going to be... He ran...
Assuming the second round doesn't go in his favour, because there is speculation that there could be a uniting of the Centre Party and the left-wing party, because I think the vote yesterday, 34% for Marine Le Pen's National Rally, 28% for the left-wing Nouveau Front Populaire and 20% for Macron's party. If those two parties were able to unite the vote, then it's a challenge to Marine Le Pen.
In theory, but I think then you will have a very interesting situation, because you saw Marine Le Pen come out very strong last night, essentially saying this is a win for democracy. She's saying democracy has spoken. So if that happens, that sort of horse trading happens, which, of course, that is the system, it'll be a very interesting to see how her side responds. And, of course, voters will also see that being done and might respond themselves. But don't forget that Macron once vowed to eliminate the populist right. So he has done the absolute opposite of that.
Could I ask, Anna, what does this mean for us? I mean, bearing in mind that it's highly probable that we will have a Labour government here. What does this mean for us?
Well, there are a couple of things in the immediate. Number one, it'll become even more difficult for especially a Labour government to stop the boats, to do anything about the boats in the Channel, because that relies heavily on France effectively taking some back, basically. And I think with a more populist government in France, there's going to be which is specifically running on an anti-immigration platform. So the Marine Le Pen's party is running with a pledge to cut net migration to 10,000 from its current, I think, 100-something thousand. Now, that will make it more difficult for a government, especially if it's a bit more soft here on migration, to negotiate that. Secondly, because there'll just be so much more pressure within France to send illegal migrants just over here, basically get rid of them out of France. The second thing, I think, is it's just going to be something that people hear, whether the voters wanting to vote reform or the Conservatives thinking about what happens with the future of the party. They can't ignore this. I mean, this is, you know, it is showing when you can't control migration, what can happen.
France, why are they voting for Le Pen's party? What is their concern in France, and how would that affect us?
Well, there are obviously multiple things that have happened in France that don't apply. One of those things is the fact that the traditional parties have sort of been, just through Macron's rise, have reduced in influence. But so there are things that absolutely do not apply. But the one trend, of course, is illegal migration and even legal migration, and people's voters' concerns about it. Also, people getting angry with their government's incumbents over the way COVID was handled. So there are a few things, but certainly I think that people here within the Conservative Party, I know a lot of them will be looking at this and saying, right, this is showing us that we need to tackle migration really seriously, and we need to have a proper plan, and we need to basically avoid this continuing along the lines of David Cameron and Rishi Sunak, frankly, and try and pick a leader who is more on the right of the party. So that will be the debate after the election, assuming the polls are correct.
Yeah, and look, 3 days out now until a general election here in the UK. Front of the Guardian talking about, you know, the UK will become will become a haven against the rise of populism. And then meanwhile, you've got Rishi Sunak and Kemi Badenoch trying to woo those undecided right-wingers back into the fold in the hope that they don't hand this supermajority to Labour. Is that cutting through, do you think, this supermajority argument from Kemi Badenoch and Rishi Sunak and others?
I'm not sure the supermajority argument is cutting through. I think what is cutting through is some of the mistakes that Reform have made and some of the issues that continue to plague Nigel Farage as he tries to lead into this election. I think he personally he's got great popularity, and if you look at the rally yesterday, it was extraordinary to watch. And similarly, the scenes in Clacton, that there is a groundswell for him, but the problem he's had with his candidates, the racist slurs, all of this, I think, is going to turn off a lot of moderate Conservatives who were simply absolutely fed up with the Conservatives, but aren't, I don't think, necessarily going to go for reform in this. However, it's definitely going to put the Conservatives on notice. I mean, his entrance into the political fall already has done that, and I think what's happening in France will do too.
OK, Anna Mihailova, thanks very much indeed.
Earlier on in the programme, I mentioned Nigel Farage standing. Here's a full list of those who have declared their candidacy in Clacton so far.
Jovan Owosu, Nepal, he's for Labour. Giles Watling, Conservative. Matthew Bensilem, Liberal Democrat. Nigel Farage for Reform. And Natasha Osborne for the Greens.
Right. The family of missing teen Jay Slater have been left bewildered and confused. The Spanish police have called off the search for the missing 19-year-old.
Well, it began 2 weeks ago after Jay vanished whilst walking to his accommodation. Since then, a mammoth hunt's been underway involving sniffer dogs, drones, a helicopter, dozens of volunteers and mountain rescue experts.
Former senior investigating officer at the Met is Simon Harding, and we're going to get his take on that one. Gosh, it must take a lot, Simon, to call off a search for a missing person.
Yeah, I mean, especially one that's grabbed so many headlines across, both countries. And I think, I think keeping the case open in which they've told the family is important. Obviously, they are following other lines of inquiry. We don't know what they are, but, we've seen so many ourselves, and I think they're being hampered by social media around different stories about drugs and potential stabbing on a beach. I saw yesterday, with him involved. There's lots and lots of stuff they must be taking in now, and I think this has probably grown to a size maybe even more than a civil guard can cope with. But they've done their search. They said they haven't found him in the area where they expected to find him based on the information they had about his telephone. So now, of course, we don't know what they're doing next, but we hope that they're following lines of inquiry to find him soon.
What would you hope they're doing next, or what would you predict they'd be doing next? Is that it?
Well, I wouldn't think that's it. I mean, obviously, as I said, the social media is helpful, but also quite unhelpful sometimes, because we've seen it in cases here in the UK as well, where it can send you down the wrong alley, and you want stuff which is factual. So they'll be working off the factual things that they have, such as the last time his phone was hitting those cell sites which pointed him in a certain direction or placed him somewhere. We've got witnesses, haven't we, from some of his friends who were on the last call. So they're working off the facts. They're working off potential CCTV identifications of him. But then again, they're battling those ones which are, false or some of the very, very hurtful things that people are putting on social media, which again takes their focus away from the priorities that they really want, which is following those facts and trying to find him.
What does your instinct tell you? Is there much chance of a happy ending in this?
Well, I mean, obviously for anybody and giving messages to family, you want to give them as much hope as possible. But, if it is in the circumstances that were the story at the beginning, that he's tried to make his way home over many miles through that kind of terrain, you wouldn't necessarily expect a happy ending. But equally, they haven't found him. And so there is that hope that perhaps he's, somewhere else. And obviously there's other stories that keep coming out about this drugs connection and everything else. It's although it's not a very nice story, it does give, again, some possible hope that he may be alive somewhere else.
Simon Harding, we leave it there.
Thank
Thank you very much indeed for your analysis. Thank you. Some of the other stories on this Monday morning, starting the day and starting the week.
The energy price cap has fallen by 7% overnight in a move that could see families save hundreds of pounds. However, experts are predicting that the cap will rise again in the run-up to winter by as much as 10%.
A huge police search is underway after a schoolboy, aged 14, became separated from his friends while swimming on Sunday evening. The incident occurred at Crosby Beach in Liverpool, and it has triggered a search and rescue operation with Coast Guard helicopters and fire service also on the scene.
And did you watch it, or maybe you were there? Glastonbury Festival has wrapped up for another year. Following an all-star weekend, 200,000 fans descended on Worthy Farm in Somerset to rock it out with Dua Lipa, Coldplay and Shania Twain, who all graced the Pyramid stage. And let's not forget Banksy put in an appearance as well. Banksy did a mural or a bit of graffiti of a migrant boat, just to make a political comment. I know, just that it would wind up the audience.
Rotten nonsense. Yeah. It's like, I like Shania Twain, but if she was playing in my back garden, would I care? Would I raise the blinds to have a look at her?
Amen. You wouldn't.
Let me just say something before you get on your high horse about it again. When was the last time you bought a Shania Twain record?
I listen to Shania Twain all the time. I don't buy any records. I don't buy any
top
music.
Of my list. I wake up in the morning and I think Shania put her on. Look, what happens at this Glastonbury nonsense is they put on anybody. They can put on anybody and they say they're a legend and everybody goes, oh, my most favourite artist ever. And they've never bought a record, they've never heard it, and they pretend this is the best experience they've ever had. It's all hypocritical.
Oh, I don't get my knickers in a twist about it. I just think it's incredible that it's, twice or three times the size of Wembley Stadium, all watching on the Pyramid stage. The atmosphere there, as far as you can see, especially in the evening with Coldplay on Saturday night, it was incredible, absolutely incredible. Didn't want to be there. I enjoyed watching it at home, but it's a national event
do you know how
now.
much of it I watched?
Zero.
Nothing. Nothing.
Here's
your weather update. Let's see what it's going to be like today. Honor Criswick.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, quite a changeable week ahead with some rain and showers. Plenty of dry weather on offer though, where it will feel pleasant as you catch the sunshine. For this morning though, we are going to see quite an unsettled picture as outbreaks of rain spread eastwards across the country. A little bit heavy at times across hills in Scotland. Across the south and southeast though, it should be fairly dry, even starting to see some bright sunshine develop across Wales, Devon and Cornwall. A little bit cloudier in the southeast though, but that's where we'll see the best of the temperatures, highs of around 21 Celsius. Into the evening, we will eventually say goodbye to that rain as it clears off into the North Sea, but it will leave a few dribs and drabs of rain and drizzle across the north of the country. In Scotland, though, a lot drier by the time we reach the evening. A few spots of rain and drizzle across hills, but largely dry. Brightening up across Northern Ireland too, but still some spots of rain and drizzle across the north. This is mainly going to be across hilly areas. Still a bit damp in the northwest of Wales too, the odd shower across East Anglia, but elsewhere some sunshine into the evening before the sun goes down. Through overnight then, generally it is going to be turning drier once those spots of rain and drizzle clear. And once again, there's going to be a mix of cloud and some clearer spells. A fair few showers moving into the northwest of Scotland though, particularly by the time we reach Tuesday morning. Still feeling a little bit cooler under those clear spells, but once again, towns and cities generally remaining in the double digits. For Tuesday then, a bit of a north-south split, starting to see some showers and some longer spells of rain feed into Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, and then later on into northern England and northwest Wales. Once again, the driest of the weather is going to be across the south and southeast parts of the Midlands, and once again, the best of the temperatures are going to be across the southeast. Highs once again around 21 Celsius. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, time for the Great British Giveaway. Emphasis on great, because let me tell you, it's a whopper.
£30,000 whopping in tax-free cash.
It's our biggest prize to date, and here's how it could be yours.
It's our summer treat to you. Your chance to win an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Our biggest cash prize of the year so far. With an extra £30,000 in your bank account this year, you could take the ultimate financial holiday and send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. £30,000 could get you those nagging home improvements done, buy that brand new car, or just enable you to kick back and relax for the rest of the year. For a chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, today is a Monday, it's the start of a new week, it's the start of a Wimbledon fortnight.
Oh, it is, and Paul Coit is back with all the Wimbledon details and the rest of the sport in just a mo.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
So there was a calf that was run down by a Surrey police car. It's now being nursed back to health, according to the family who own the farm that the calf escaped from.
Well, he didn't just run him over once, he ran him over twice.
No, we're not showing you the footage. The footage is really shocking. But the police officer who was driving this vehicle has now been taken off frontline duties until a full investigation is completed. And I feel like I'm yet again the only person in the country who thinks the police officer was just doing his job. That police officer, probably a young guy who's got dual carriageways left, right and centre in that area. Do you know what the most popular business is in that area in Feltham?
Farming.
McDonald's drive-through. It's got a queue round the block anytime you go around that area. And all those people queuing for McDonald's who are now outraged that this poor cow had to die.
Because it's going to be at McDonald's at some point.
At some point he was going to die. I'm really sorry. If you eat meat, you can't be upset by a cow dying. I think the fast roads with cars at 10 o'clock at night in the dark, they're not expecting a cow to walk out in the middle of the night. There would have been a massive pile-up. Then there'd been, like, who knows how many people dead. And then the police would have been criticised for not neutralising the threat.
The thing is, it was because he did... why... You could see the first time, the calf could barely stand up. I just don't get why I had to then go and do it a second time.
Well, I suppose at that point it's a bit like if you run over like a deer on the side of the road, you know, and if the police they're going to kill the animal to put it out of its misery. That's all I can presume. And the guy's not trained. This is Feltham. It isn't Texas. He's not going to come out with a lasso. He doesn't know what to do.
Where did this happen, Feltham?
Feltham. I'm sure the inbox is now going to be full of people saying, "Bev, you're outrageous. You lack compassion."
No, there will be people who agree with you. But if it had been done once, that was enough. But I don't think it needed to do it the second time.
GB News, the People's Channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do. His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, unlike you. That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frothy in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice. Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tormini.
And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage. And thank you to you, RGB News viewers and listeners, for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party.
Right, time to go through all the latest sports, and to be honest, all we're talking about there is Wimbledon, Paul Coit, because you're there tomorrow. It gets underway today.
Yes.
Great British tradition.
It is a huge tradition, of course. Emma Raducanu is... You know what? She might... Oh, I don't want to say it.
Go on.
She might do something.
No.
She might do. She suddenly... Well, I can see the look of Eamonn's eyes that are saying, come on.
No, I think she's an incredibly lucky player to won the US Open against the odds. And that's it.
Yeah.
There's nothing else. What is she ranked in the world now?
She is ranked... tell me.
It's pretty low.
135.
Yeah.
135 in the world. So she plays Ekaterina Alexandrova.
Not Katerina Alexandrova.
Yeah. She's from... Where is she? I think she's Hackney way, I think she comes from. But no, she's Russian. She's 22 in the world. So she plays her. So she's playing on centre court. So she's second on today. So it's the first day.
Should be walloped.
You think so?
Yes.
You know what? I think she's going to win.
I don't. I think she's incredibly...
What's the ranking of the Russian?
22.
Oh.
22.
Walloped.
To be knocked out by a Russian, it's an insult.
I know.
Well, the Russians shouldn't be allowed to play.
I agree.
Shouldn't be there anyway.
Yeah.
But Andy Murray is possibly going to play tomorrow.
Decision yet to be made.
Well, he was asked about this yesterday. This is what Andy had to say.
I'm going to play, another set again tomorrow. I'm doing some physical testing in the morning to see sort of how far off I am from a physical perspective, and then, I will probably make a decision tomorrow evening after that.
So tomorrow evening, that's tonight. So he's going to play one set of tennis today at just outside Wimbledon. So he's Orange Park, isn't it? It's where they have the courts outside. So he's going to play that. See, I'm slicing as I'm talking.
Yeah.
So he has that game, and should he come through? Because he only had an operation a week ago. It was last Saturday. Usually it's 6 weeks you're going to be out with that cyst on the back.
If he rules himself out, is that him out of the doubles with his brother as well, or is it just out of the singles? So he's going to play doubles with his brother no matter what, basically?
Well, we say no matter what. That's next week.
Yeah.
So hopefully... See, the thing is, he says he just wants a good... just do it one more time, because we know that he's going to finish. He's going to finish at the end of the year. But to play singles, I mean, blimey, I'd have a go. It doesn't really matter how it's going to go, the final one.
Not if you're going to be knocked out by seed 144 or whatever.
Well, Thomas Machak is the name of the player that he's playing. He's a decent player. The chances are he is going to be knocked out, whether he's fit or whether he isn't. But it's just to go out and say goodbye.
Have
He's
that
two-time Wimbledon champion.
Yeah, and the support he would receive, the Wimbledon bounce, or whatever you want to call it, whether he loses or not, to feel that one last time. I can understand why he wants to do it.
He said, I just want the opportunity to play one more time out there, hopefully on centre court, and feel that buzz.
Yeah.
So when they are deciding, and they decide who goes on what court the night before, so we know today's, and we won't know tomorrow until tonight, surely, if the organisers are going to say, Andy Murray plays prime time centre court, because it's going to be the long goodbye. By the way, when it comes to Wimbledon, how many spectators were there last year?
500,000.
532,651.
That was a record, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a record. Yeah. Very good. 250 ball boys and girls. How many... we did this last year, but I'm going to give it another go. How many tennis balls were used, what do you reckon, during the fortnight?
50,000.
55,000.
Well, good guess.
Unbelievable.
Oh, I don't know how I did that.
How many strawberries will be consumed? You can go away and research that and come back.
6.5 million will be eaten tomorrow. So, anyway, we love Wimbledon, but it's all about the Euros. We'll talk more about the Euros.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Well, there'll be a lot of people at home watching the tennis today because today is Hangover Monday. This is the biggest.
Oh, really?
This is the biggest sickies day of the year. 1.5 million staff will phone in ill, and 2 million more will take a day off on holiday because of the match last night.
We're short-staffed today, did you notice?
Oh, is that why?
Yeah, I've got a couple of ill... It's strange, isn't it? By the way, I've got to do something, if that's all right.
Yes.
Oh, yeah?
I was working at a golf event in Dorset. Pete and Angie Loveridge, who put a lot of money to charity, if I would say hello to them during the sport. Hello, Pete and Angie. There you go.
Oh, well, let's increase
Pete,
that.
yes.
Good morning, Pete and Angie Loveridge.
There we are. Well,
Pete and Andy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
500 quid they donated.
Yes.
No small sum.
Very
well
good.
Done.
Absolutely. All goes to a fantastic children's charity.
Very good. Thank you, Paul.
Thank
Still
you.
to come.
Thank
We'll be going
you.
through the front pages and the biggest stories of the day. Dawn Neeson, Oscar Reddrop, doing that right after this.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Andy Hilbert with the latest across the UK. In Northamptonshire, the M1 in both directions is now open. It was following the weekend roadworks around Junction 18 at Rugby. In the Gloucestershire area on the M4 eastbound, the exit slip road to the M5 is partially blocked at the moment due to emergency barrier repairs. That's just on the outskirts of Bristol there at Junction 20 for the M5 at the Onsbury interchange. And also too in Staffordshire at the moment, the M6 North. 2 lanes are closed, traffic's heavy. It's due to an accident between Junction 14 for Stafford North and Junction 15 for the D Road at Stoke-on-Trent. And in Glasgow, the M8 eastbound, the entry slip road now open following earlier accident investigation work. That was going to affect you around Junction 25A, of course, but now all seems to be clear there this morning. We'll obviously keep an eye on things for you here across the UK. For now, though, that's the latest. You're up to date.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This election night, we're putting on a party.
And you are invited.
We'll be here with you.
Following all the twists and turns.
As well as all the live reaction from our Election Night Watch Party.
With our GB News lineup.
And as morning breaks, we'll be here with breakfast from 6 a.m.
As it becomes clear who the winners and the losers really are.
Vote 2024.
Thursday, the 4th of July.
Only on GB News.
Britain's election channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do. His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, and unlike you. That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
Yeah, for dartball practice. Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This election night, we're putting on a party.
And you are invited.
We'll be here with you.
Following all the twists and turns.
As well as all the live reaction from our Election Night Watch Party.
With our GB News lineup.
And as morning breaks, we'll be here with breakfast from 6 a.m.
As it becomes clear who the winners and the losers really are.
Vote 2024.
Thursday, the 4th of July.
Only on GB News.
Britain's election channel.
And at this stage, we'll give you some of the newspaper front pages. This is how they're shaping up this morning. The Guardian, first of all.
It reports on Keir Starmer's promise to stunt the growth of populism by improving the quality of living for all.
Daily Mail warns voters of a generation of a Labour government if Keir Starmer's party delivers on the sweeping majority polls are predicting.
The Sun calls Jude Bellingham's 11th hour goal at Euro 2024 last night as saved by the bell.
Times. French President Emmanuel Macron has been humiliated after his party finished third in the elections there.
And the Telegraph also leading with the French elections, claiming Marine Le Pen has wiped out Emmanuel Macron in the first round of voting.
Well, to talk about those stories and more, the former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson, and the former advisor to Boris Johnson, Oscar Redrop.
Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Lots to talk about this morning, Dawn, and an interesting front page for The Guardian, given the news coming out of France overnight and what we've been seeing from Farage here in the UK in the last few weeks, this rise of populism. And Labour thinks that this is the way to win even more votes, he thinks, by saying that he'll be the home for, well, staving it off.
Well, yeah, you know what? I'm not. Can I just give a shout out to the Sun newspaper today? Brilliant front page. Last night was one of those nights I really wished I was editing a paper still, because the pictures and the headlines coming out of the Euros were brilliant. However, The Guardian, the headline: Labour can stem populist threat by improving lives, say Starmer. I have no idea what that headline even means. It's like a word soup.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually mean anything, and nor does the story. I mean, it's like.
Know, as I was reading the headline, that's exactly what I was going to say. Then I thought Isabel would say, "Shut up, Eamonn."
I'm glad that you have that inner voice in your head.
Inner voice.
Healthy, I think. Yeah, to have that.
Are in
I think it's healthy.
So if I was the editor of that paper, whoever wrote that headline, I'd be saying, what does that even mean?
Yes, exactly, with another word inserted, which we can't use at the moment. What Starmer, I think, is saying that is going to restore the faith in politics with deeds, not words. Well, good, because given these words don't make any sense, I appreciate that. And he says we need to get the trust back in British politics, otherwise we're going to end up going like France, more to the far right. I think that's what he's saying. It's very, very difficult to interpret.
Well, how are we going to go to the far right if it's the left that are going to win the election?
Yeah, well, I know, this is the problem. And then he goes on, he ticks all the boxes: economic growth, NHS, green energy. And it's just words. And it's just like, I know at this stage of the game we've had a lot of words from all politicians, and most of us are going, yeah, right, whatever. And he goes, but the one telling thing is, it's like, Labour is deeds, not words, by giving us a load of words that don't mean anything.
Well, he can't do deeds yet. He's not in number 10, to be fair. I have to say, go on.
What I think, Oscar, is it's not so much anything Labour are promising, or it's not that they have a charismatic leader or anything. People are simply judging the Conservatives on their record, and the Conservatives don't seem to be seeing that. They don't seem to say, we're getting a right kicking, but it's because of who we have been.
Yeah, and actually, that, I think that vibe, if you like, throughout the country ahead of this election has really given Labour the grace and the privilege to just do the most generic, boring, word-soupy election. They don't have to do anything interesting. They can just, you know, like a very slow ship, just, you know, put themselves in the port and win the election without doing anything exciting whatsoever.
You've just nailed it, Oscar, because it says, you know, Keir Starmer's interview is disputing claims that Labour's policies are unambitious, I think is the polite word.
Yeah.
And he actually says this, right? He says they are a down payment towards longer-term ambition.
Yeah, brilliant.
Anyone?
I mean, great stuff, mate.
No, I totally agree. I actually think the story is not the general election. I don't even think the story is who's going to lead the Conservatives after they lose. I think the story is going to be about the way we vote in this country, and I think there are going to be a lot of people saying this very boring person has just been handed a supermajority on potentially fewer votes than Jeremy Corbyn got when he lost to Boris Johnson. Are we still a country that believes that we should be voting through first past the post? And it really will depend how many vote for Farage as well. And if they're getting millions and millions of votes and hardly any seats, possibly not any, then there's a debate to be had, which I think will be more interesting and exciting than the Conservative Party election or the general election.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's like, you know, Starmer's approval rating is -20.
It's mad, isn't it? Yeah.
I think everyone's a bit fed up. I think that's what we're getting. I think they're fed up of mainstream politicians at the moment.
Well, let's talk, Oscar, about the Times front page. They are fighting for these undecided voters, and Sunak's trying to make capital over what's been a difficult few days for Nigel Farage. Obviously, Sunak had a difficult early campaign. I think Farage, you could easily say, has had a difficult few days now.
Yeah.
Who is going to win over these undecideds, do you think? Or what are the Times saying?
Well, look, I mean, I don't know how many undecideds there are. I mean, I think the Times are doing their best, and you probably see this the week of an election where the news cycle does halt a little bit because we're literally just at the dinner party now, ready for the dinner to be served. There's not much more movement or interesting things you're going to hear. But in terms of taking on Farage from the Conservative Party's perspective, it's difficult. I mean, strategically, he was a tiger that has been on the scene for, whilst Rishi was Prime Minister. And they didn't kill it, they didn't feed it, they didn't placate it. And I think it's almost too late now to try and bring some of those reform voters across. I get it. And the other problem with this story for me, in terms of they're really pushing the supermajority line, scaremongering that, you don't want a supermajority. Well, maybe people actually want that. And so from a messaging perspective, I kind of go, how do you scaremonger people away from something that actually they want? We don't want a supermajority, and actually people turn around to Rishi and say,
well, not
sorry,
if they
mate,
have got a lower vote share than these other people who've lost, potentially. I think that's where the argument comes from. Actually, is there legitimacy to having a supermajority when you've got a lower vote share? But you're talking about whether or not they can pull in these
I think you're scaremongering people.
Kemi Badenoch's changed her tune, because we've heard a lot of people like James Cleverly, who we're going to have on later on this morning, condemning people who want to vote for reform, whereas she's offering an olive branch. She's saying, my heart breaks when Tories turn to reform. She's saying there's still a place for you in the Conservatives. And I think that's a much smarter strategy.
Agreed, Isabel. Much smarter strategy, because you have to empathise with people that actually it has been... there have been shortcomings with the Conservative government over the last few years. I think I'd be an idiot, and I would not be able to sit here and look anyone in the eye and say otherwise. But kind of that empathy, slightly more human acknowledgement, even referencing her own seat and the battle that she's got, I think people respond to that so much better than scaremongering.
Or condemning,
And condemning, more to the point. Exactly.
Yeah. We've seen that, I think, more over the past week, haven't we? We've had both David Cameron and Rishi Sunak actually personally attacking Nigel Farage and reform. And they haven't done that in the election before. But this last week, we've seen them really turn. So it stinks of desperation, whereas Kemi is actually a smart cookie there.
France, do we care what's happening in France at all?
Do you care, Eamonn?
I don't care, no.
The interesting thing about this is Marine Le Pen declared her party has practically wiped out Emmanuel Macron after winning the first round of voting in the French election. The French elections are even more mad than ours. They have another go on Sunday, so we won't know the overall outcome until then. But Marine Le Pen's national rally potentially could win between 230, 280 seats in a 577-seat National Assembly, and they could, if they win a few more, have the majority, which is going to be very, very embarrassing, and God knows what Macron will do there, who's come third so far. But there is an interesting thing, Eamonn, honestly, the turnout. The turnout is the biggest turnout for a parliamentary vote in nearly 4 decades in France. Consider a referendum on basic...
So what's turning them out?
The fact they hate Macron. That seems to be...
It's more that they hate Macron. Why? What's he doing? I mean, they must be feeling this threat like everyone else, and no one says this, about migration.
Yes, I think that's
and yet no one will mention this and say, well, actually, they're a bit like what's going on in England.
Yeah. It's exactly. There's so many parallels going on. You can see the parallels with the American election. You can see what's happening in France, and the parallels here as well. I mean, if you watched Nigel Farage at the Reform rally in Birmingham yesterday, astonishing reaction.
Well, you had people in MAGA hats as well, Make America Great. They're all in their Trump caps at the Reform rally.
Yeah, no, it is a knee-jerk reaction. I think you've nailed it, Eamonn. I think it is about migration, but you can't talk about that because then you are accused of being racist.
The time of our age.
Give us your view this morning, folks. So I'd like to hear what you think about all of that. The UK is heading towards stagnation after the elections, Oscar. This is front page of the Eye.
Yeah, around 60 economists have written a joint letter warning of the, as they see it, incoming stagnation. I think, again, this is slightly reflective of quite unambitious or, restrained, if you like, spending plans, economic plans in the Labour manifesto predominantly. And again, going back to what Dawn was saying earlier, growth will take time, and going for growth from a Labour perspective, which they talk about quite a lot, good stuff, great, of course, we all want growth. But the stagnation point is that actually they're going to probably go in, and for their first year, the Labour Party, understandably and probably quite strategically, will want to just get everyone off their backs, and they'll go, God, it's so much worse than we thought it was. And they're not going to want to spend money. They want to keep it tight. And ultimately, you know, they will have to raise taxes. You know, if they want that investment that these economists are calling for in our public services, they will have to raise taxes. There's no other way. You can all say, oh, no, we don't need to do that. We'll go for growth. We'll go for growth. That takes time.
You can go and cut something like the foreign aid budget, but no one will have the spondulics to be able to do it.
No, and the Labour Party will not... I'm telling you now, Eamonn, we will hear... And people will come on your show, and for fast forward a year's time, all you will hear is, well, no, I know we need to do this and X and Y, but it's actually so much worse. You know, the Tories really left it in them than we expected, so we're really having to... That's all it will be for a year.
It was a game plan. It wasn't a definite. It was a game plan, an ambition.
Yeah, exactly.
It leads us back to that front page of The Guardian, where Starmer's claiming that the answer, the antidote to the rise of the right is to improve people's living conditions. Well, how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
Exactly. If you're not going to be, you know, investing in in public services...
Give you more money for your
and
pocket.
you're not cutting our taxes, you know, in fact, you're going to be increasing them. So I just think it's sort of an oxymoron. It's sort of contradicting.
Well, it just keeps mentioning economic growth, NHS, green energy, but without any actual... I know they've tried to give us detail, and then they sort of flip-flop on it.
Right, Dawn, let's talk about food. I know it's one of your favourite subjects. This is in The Sun. It says cutting out junk food does not necessarily mean you have a healthy diet.
Yeah, absolutely. There's two stories on page 23 of The Sun that was interesting, and food isn't the biggest one for me. It's the bigger story, which is booze. But anyway, let's talk about food. Cutting out junk food does not mean a healthy diet. It's US scientists have done some research in producing two menus. One had ultra-processed foods, such as burgers and cereals. The other had minimally processed foods, such as cuts of meat, fruit and veg, and both scored around 43 out of 44 of 100 on the Healthy Eating Index, despite the less processed option costing almost 3 times as much. Now, I mean, it's interesting, but I mean, surely the bottom line is you don't need expensive research. The bottom line is it's probably healthier for you to eat food that isn't heavily processed, too much fat, too much salt, too much sugar. But, you know, we carry on doing all these studies because scientists are making money out of them, basically.
Well, I thought
we need reminding, I think, sometimes.
Very good news as someone who eats quite a lot of junk food. It was a very reassuring story.
Carry on.
Yeah, carry on. Will do.
Well, that's the other thing it's going to do, isn't it? Yeah. For youngsters, burgers.
Yeah, the microwave is my...
Is your friend?
Is my friend.
What about
my hours
the air fryer?
of leave.
That's my question. That's a healthier way of having junk food.
Yeah,
surely.
I might evolve to the air fryer in time.
I've evolved to the air fryer. I have to say, I quite like an air fryer. I did roast potatoes in the air fryer yesterday.
You can do like a roast. Can you do a whole roast chicken in an air fryer?
I believe you can, I don't think it would fit in mine. I did a chicken pie in the oven with veg from the garden and roast potatoes in the air fryer.
Oh, you should see her veg patch. It's amazing.
Wow.
Just don't mention the baby bunnies.
The thing that gets me, Dawn, is that junk food exists. It's allowed to exist. No one does anything about it. You know, I could look at any of the big high street fast food outlets and you can see bad for you, bad for you, bad for you, but they're allowed to exist. And my whole point is, politically, why are they allowed to exist? Why are we allowed to eat biscuits that are bad for us or chocolate that is really bad for us? And you can say choice, but you can also look and you can say, money.
It's all about the money.
It's all about
Follow the money. That's exactly what it is.
Is the government getting money out of it?
I think the food industry is so powerful that I think governments of whatever colour we have come Friday are going to be terrified to tackle it. And I'm like you. I mean, I walk around the supermarket and I have panic attacks at some of the stuff that's available, and people are buying it and eating it because you think, well, it's on sale, it must be OK for me. It's not.
I really hate to disagree with everyone here, but I think people should just be allowed to eat kind of what they want. Personal
They're being poisoned,
responsibility.
Oscar. They're being
Personal
poisoned.
responsibility, but when you make a bad decision paid for by all of us through our taxes in an NHS that's already spending 50%
Well, the good news is,
of
I
our
think
budget.
that supermajority Labour government, as Rishi puts it, I think they will start encroaching onto things like this.
Yeah.
It is kind of in their DNA a little bit, and for better and for worse. You know, some people that's a good thing. They want more of that. For me, it's go away. But
Well, I personally think there's a happy medium. I don't want things to be banned, and I don't want people to tell me what I can and can't eat. But I also don't want when my children are at the till for all the chocolate to be at child height, so that every time they're standing at the till, they're going, "Mummy, Mummy, can I have the chocolate?"
I'm not talking about naughty things being available. I'm talking about poison being available, and we're eating it. And if you go on the internet, I'm not saying it's right or wrong or whatever, and you look up any high food, fast food outlet, and you say, right, let's look at their chips. What is in their chips?
Oh,
or why do their chips exist? Then it becomes really scary that we are allowed to eat that. And I think, well, why is somebody not doing anything about that?
Yeah, that's fair actually.
There you go. See, we persuaded you over.
Yeah, chemicals, preservatives, all sorts of rubbish like that.
Just never read the ingredients list. They always sound like a chemical experiment.
The other thing that gets me is litter. So you take fast food outlets and some of them pay to have dirt collectors within 100 metres off their outlet. That's not where people drop their litter. People take the litter into the car and they drop the litter 5 miles away.
On my lane.
Yeah.
I guess throw it out the window. Who does that? Who throws it out?
Who does
how can you even think that is a good idea?
But it is.
I don't know.
It is. I was doing some work recently for Keep Britain Tidy, and it is absolutely scary what people throw out the window.
Oh, yeah.
Certain people, I'm not saying you would, or I would, or Isabel would, but there are people who just don't see there's any consequence to chucking cartons out the window.
Would you
see my flat, Eamonn? It's pretty much. I don't. At least I keep it inside, but I don't do it.
God, you live in squalor and eat
well,
like
it's
a
not
pig.
squalor. Squalor's quite an allegation,
Okay.
but yeah, it's not always tight.
But have you ever thrown an apple core out of the window? Because I feel like an absolute rebel if I'm like winding down the window. It's fine to do it, but I'm always thinking.
I think that feeds a squirrel or a bird or something.
So it's
like
okay.
That.
Good. Yeah, I've done it, but I always feel naughty.
Very brief political point on litter. Very brief. I think election campaigns, political parties, they don't realise how that actually affects people's lives, and actually how someone, government talking on those terms would actually be very attractive to people.
Well, and I think it's a campaign that does improve people's lives, and that there are a lot of volunteers involved in this. It humbles me when I go past litter volunteers. They wear these volunteer bibs and they're cleaning up other people's rubbish. I think it's...
But can I can kill two birds with one stone here. We have a huge problem in our prisons. We're releasing convicted criminals from prison early. Let's get people to finish their sentences tidying up Britain. Clearing up the litter. I really think it's
very popular.
I think about this because I agree with you with this, and I think, so why is this done? And it'll be supervision, insurance.
Yeah, but they're going to be out in society anyway.
But they'll have to be supervised, and they won't have staff to supervise the prisoners out doing this, and there'll have to be some insurance implication in all of this. There'll be lots of reasons.
Red tape.
Get
those convicted criminals out on the lay-bys, clearing up our roads. Should we talk about Glastonbury? I don't know if any of you watched it over the weekend. The boat. Let's talk about the boat, because this was... Yeah, I mean, Banksy has to always try and steal the limelight, doesn't he?
Yeah, I thought it was
make a political message.
I thought it was... Look, I get... And to be honest with you, if I was there and I knew it was a Banksy boat, I'd be nicking it, climbing over the fence and flogging it. However, I wasn't, because I've never been to Glastonbury, and nor do I want to go ever.
There it is.
However,
so it wasn't a painting?
No, it was an inflatable boat with dummies on it.
And he just launched it into the crowd?
Yes. Now, the problem I have with this is that, A, it's insensitive, given we had a child die very recently trying to make that journey across the Channel. And this is at a festival. And I know this is supporting sort of like migrants and everything, and sort of like, it's just like, given what happened at that festival out in Israel, I'm just a bit twitchy about over-politicising a festival at the moment.
I think the Evises who own Worthy Farm, they're quite political.
They're very political. Of course they are.
They're very involved in lots of worthy causes on
Music has
Worthy
always
Farm.
been political. You're never going to separate it. I mean, it is, but I just think this was in poor taste, maybe not the right time.
OK. Guys, thanks very much indeed. See you again in another 40 minutes' time. Don Neeson and Oscar Reddrop. Thank you very much indeed. So here we are. We're starting a new week. I think think the weather's going to be good today, and it's the start of Wimbledon fortnight, so we're looking for rain to be avoided in that part of London. Let's see if that's the case. Here's Honor.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, quite a changeable week ahead with some rain and showers. Plenty of dry weather on offer though, where it will feel pleasant as you catch the sunshine. For this morning though, we are going to see quite an unsettled picture as outbreaks of rain spread eastwards across the country. A little bit heavy at times across hills in Scotland. Across the south and southeast though, it should be fairly dry, even starting to see some bright sunshine develop across Wales, Devon and Cornwall. A little bit cloudier in the southeast though, but that's where we'll see the best of the temperatures, highs of around 21 Celsius. Into the evening, we will eventually say goodbye to that rain as it clears off into the North Sea, but it will leave a few dribs and drabs of rain and drizzle across the north of the country. In Scotland, though, a lot drier by the time we reach the evening. A few spots of rain and drizzle across hills, but largely dry. Brightening up across Northern Ireland too, but still some spots of rain and drizzle across the north. This is mainly going to be across hilly areas. Still a bit damp in the northwest of Wales too, the odd shower across East Anglia, but elsewhere some sunshine into the evening before the sun goes down. Through overnight then, generally it is going to be turning drier once those spots of rain and drizzle clear. And once again, there's going to be a mix of cloud and some clearer spells. A fair few showers moving into the northwest of Scotland though, particularly by the time we reach Tuesday morning. Still feeling a little bit cooler under those clear spells, but once again, towns and cities generally remaining in the double digits. For Tuesday then, a bit of a north-south split, starting to see some showers and some longer spells of rain feed into Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, and then later on into Northern England and northwest Wales. Once again, the driest of the weather is going to be across the south and southeast, parts of the Midlands, and once again, the best of the temperatures are going to be across the southeast. Highs once again around 21 Celsius. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Morning, I'm Andy Hilbert with the latest on the roads across the UK. In Bedfordshire, the northbound M1, all traffic temporarily being held at the minute. This is due to a broken down van just before junction 13 for Bedford and Milton Keynes South. In West Sussex, the northbound M23, a lane closed on the exit slip road due to emergency repairs at junction 10 at Crawley. And in Bristol and Gloucestershire, the M4 eastbound, the exit slip to the M5 South is partially blocked due to emergency barrier repairs at junction 20 for the M5 at the Almesbury interchange. And in Staffordshire, the northbound M6, two lanes are closed. Traffic's heavy due to an accident. Junction 14 Stafford North to junction 15 for the D Road at Stoke-on-Trent. And in Cornwall, in the Camelford area, Marketplace, the A39 is closed due to an unsafe building around Higher Cross Lane at the minute to Boscastle turn-off, of course. For now, you're up to date. That's the very latest. I'm Andy Hilbert this morning.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's our summer treat to you. Your chance to win an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Our biggest cash prize of the year so far. With an extra £30,000 in your bank account this year, you could take the ultimate financial holiday and send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. £30,000 could get you those nagging home improvements done, buy that brand new car, or just enable you to kick back and relax for the rest of the year. For a chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tominey.
And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, RGB News viewers and listeners, for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Camilla Tominey. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
Good morning. England keeps the dream alive.
A nail-biting victory sends them straight to the quarter-final.
As Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane strike to save the day.
Well, it's never an easy watch. For 94 minutes and 35 seconds, football wasn't coming home. England were, but it takes great players to change things. And Jude Bellingham scored an amazing overhead kick to take the game to extra time. And 1 minute into that, skipper Harry Kane got the winner. Switzerland next in the quarterfinals on Sunday, or Saturday, I should say. That's if your nerves can take it.
Emmanuel Macron humiliated as the French right surge in their first round of election voting.
Rishi Sunak turns up the heat on reform as he battles Nigel Farage over undecided voters.
Lost without a trace, Jay Slater's family left distraught as Spanish police call off the search.
And Shania Twain rocked the legend spot at Glastonbury as the iconic festival wrapped up for another year.
And we'll be debating whether we should be charging tourists to enter museums and art galleries. Charge them 5 times as much, I say, to ease the burden on the taxpayer.
Hello, a wet start across Scotland, Northern Ireland and parts of northern England. You can put away the raincoats in the south though, with plenty of dry weather on the cards. Stay tuned for the details.
Why do we entertain the whole world to come to our museums? It's fine. You go to Egypt, you go to Rome, we go wherever. You pay to go in. But you come to Britain, London, queues everywhere, because it's free. Have it on us. What a lot of nonsense. 1 minute past 7. I'm Eamonn home.
And I'm Isabel Webster, and you're tuned in to GB News Breakfast. It was a nail-biter, wasn't it?
Why do you stay quiet when I talk about charging in museums? And I talk about this all the time.
No, I didn't. I was staying quiet.
It's culture. It's what we should do.
No, I actually think this is a good one. I think this is a good idea if we could make a little bit of money out of our very vibrant, tourist economy, then why not? As long as we don't start charging us, people who live here, and I really draw the line at that, because, we need to try and open up culture to everybody. And, it shouldn't just be wealthy people.
It's Roman culture and Greek culture and Egyptian
humanities culture.
Stuff that we've stolen from around the world.
Yeah, fine, but I don't think we should be paying for it, because,
But everybody else should. If you come from Venezuela and visit London, you should
argument
pay.
from me.
Good, we like that. Now let's go to Paul Coyton. We'll have an argument. England.
I think the Venezuelan tourist board are extremely unhappy about this now. Why us, they're saying?
England, rubbish.
Yep.
Rubbish.
Well,
and everybody's going to reinvent it. No, they were rubbish.
So far?
They were rubbish. They were rubbish substitutions. Yep. There was a minute and a half left, or 1 minute 23 seconds.
1 minute 23 seconds.
And
yes.
Jude Bellingham scores the most magnificent goal. Fantastic. It then gives England a bit of wind beneath their wings, sort of thing, and that carries on into the extra time. But I tell you what, you were going out last night. You were going out, and Southgate is a very lucky man.
That's all I got to say. You know what? You've summed it up, because the thing is, it's when we see a great end to a game, and it doesn't matter if it's the Premier League, it doesn't matter if it's England, it doesn't matter who it is. Obviously, the tension is just incredible. And then when the goal goes in, then there's this explosion of joy. And this is what great sport is all about. There's the goal. That's just as Jude Bellingham scored it. That's about 1 second before we just jump. It's kind of a scissor kick.
A scissor kick.
It's a scissor kick. It wasn't your regular Dennis Stewart overhead kick from the 76 League Cup final, but it was an amazing goal. It was from a long throw-in, because that was desperation. A long throw-in, which was then nodded on, and then came to Bellingham, who then did...
It was nodded on just as we were nodding off.
It's exactly exactly right. I mean, we get very nervous.
He's a superb player. There's absolute doubt. He went quiet for a long part of the game, but then he produces magic like that.
Well,
just
he
in the
did,
nick
but
of time.
that's what great players do. He was asked about this afterwards. So Jude Bellingham, and he was a little nervous about how I think how the game was going and how people are reacting to him. But then scored this amazing goal, and he's like showing it was me. Of course, it was me. But he was asked about it, and this is what Jude Bellingham said.
It's a combination of a lot of things, you know. You're playing for England is an enjoyable feeling, but it's also a lot of pressure. You hear people talk a lot of rubbish, and you know it's nice that when you deliver, you can give them a little bit back. You know, it's very difficult in press conferences and interviews and things like that to talk as openly as footballers want to, because they're always judged. And for me, football and being on the pitch, scoring goals, celebrating is my release. And you know, it's maybe a message to a few people, but very happy moment and full of adrenaline.
Well, I would say thank you for giving us a little bit of joy. Now could you give us a lot of joy?
Yeah, we need it.
Don't just sprinkle it.
I've seen it before. I've seen it before in tournaments, even going back to Euro 96, even going back to the World Cup back in 1966. I don't remember that myself, but it's always that slow start, then the momentum builds. I just so hope that against Switzerland, then we see the England team we've been wanting to see, because we haven't seen it yet.
With all due respect, Paul, you're not going to see that, because we said come the knockout stage, we would see a new England. We would see an England that's playing for a win that day. They didn't have to play just for a result. And the Southgate tactics, left to right, right to left, across the pitch, back to the keeper, that's the way it went. There's no excitement, there's no rush forward, there's no wingers being used. We
saw it for a very short space of time when that momentum was there. We need to see it the whole time.
Yes, I'm saying we did see it at the end, right, at the end, and we're in extra time. But we didn't see it for 89 minutes.
No, we didn't.
So Southgate's toast for you, Eamonn.
I question his substitutions, I question his tactics, and I do think you can see this is not working. England have 70-odd% of the possession, but they're doing nothing with it, absolutely nothing with it. They're playing it to themselves in their own half of the pitch.
It needs to be going forward. And we see, I was looking at Spain yesterday, they're doing it, Germany are doing it. We need to up our game. And had we lost, and of course, let's not forget, we were seconds away from going out, which had been the biggest disaster since they were knocked out by Iceland. And Gareth Southgate going over to thank the fans, I tell you what, it would have been a mistake if he'd walked over towards those England fans had we lost that game.
Yeah.
He has got a real stay of execution. He may be saying, oh, you know what, everything worked and I had a feeling we were going to score. It was close. So
the warning signs were there, Paul. There was the pre-match games that they had. It was at Iceland, they were beaten by and whatever.
I agree.
Not good, just not good. And he's done nothing in the knockout stages to change it. So what makes us think Switzerland are a very good team on Saturday, 5 o'clock on Saturday? Why would it be any different against Switzerland?
I just don't know. I just don't know. We can probably expect a similar lineup. Maybe we won't. We just don't know what Gareth Southgate's going to do, because he surprised us by not making substitutions. Maybe he's going to surprise us this time by making a lot of changes. We don't know until later on in the week. We're through. A win's a win.
A win's a win. A win's a win. Good stuff. Thanks, Quoty. Appreciate it. Right, on to politics. And Marine Le Pen has declared her party triumphant in the first round of the French elections, virtually, as she said, wiping out Emmanuel Macron.
Well, that was the first round of voting yesterday, and it's a bruising backfire for President Macron, who called this snap vote following Le Pen's surge in the recent European election. And people, Jay says, the similarities are striking. Macron calls a snap election and it backfires spectacularly. Sunak calls a snap election and it does exactly the same.
Well, speaking of Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister's turning up the heat against right-wing insurgents in the UK as he aims to win over the millions of as-yet undecided voters.
Deputy Political Editor for The Mail on Sunday, Anna Mikalova, is here this morning with her take on things. How do you read what you see and what's happening in France?
In France, well, I mean, it's a huge night for Marine Le Pen and an absolute humiliation for Emmanuel Macron and his whole strategy of calling an election, but it's also a really big verdict of just how unpopular he's become and his government. And people who don't, that know the system, the numbers sort of... Her party has won about 30% of the vote, but that is the equivalent of a landslide, particularly when you consider the other element, which is Macron's actually come third. So the party that's come second is the Corbyn-type hard left. So the real choice at the next round of voting will be effectively a choice between the hard right and the hard left, which I think will favour Le Pen again.
We should point out, actually, Macron and Le Pen themselves are not involved in this. This is not a presidential election. This is for the Assembly, and the Assembly just deals with domestic policy. Macron will still be in charge of international policy, which affects us in the UK, as well as the armed forces. But as Eamonn was asking a little bit earlier on, what does this mean for us in the UK? Will it change our relationship? Should she be as successful, or indeed the National Rally Party, in the second round?
Well, first of all, there's going to be a lot of commentary about what this means. Will there, we're seeing this rise of the right in France, in Italy. A lot of it is very much a backlash to how immigration has been handled. In fact, Le Pen's party has run on a ticket of we're going to pledge to actually really cut net migration to 10,000, a debate that might be familiar to, obviously, people at home here.
That was a long time ago. We were talking about 10,000.
Exactly.
David Cameron days, but it's a long time since we thought we could ever get anywhere near that.
So that will put a lot of Conservatives on notice who have overseen these absolutely ballooning numbers. However, Andrew Neil has a really interesting piece in today's Daily Mail where he actually argues that this could be a benefit to Keir Starmer, assuming Keir Starmer wins the election, because the instability over in France, which almost certainly will follow from this, might turn markets off France a little bit and might bring some investment back to the UK, because it might make the UK, in contrast, look like a more stable place to put your money, which is, of course, exactly what Labour is hoping on. Their whole strategy is to try and boost growth without really explaining how. So there could be a short-term benefit in a way, but really, long-term, there has to be a really big debate about both illegal migration and legal migration, because the numbers in the UK are much higher than in France on net migration.
But, Anna, it doesn't mean that Keir Starmer could turn to France and say, hey, help us out with this migration situation, because they won't be interested, will they?
Exactly, and that, in fact, that makes that challenge, I think, much harder for the UK, but particularly the UK with a Labour government, which, let's be honest, is just... Rishi Sunak has clearly not really managed to stop the boats as he promised, but I don't think many people look at what Starmer's promising and actually believe that it's going to have...
Well, just briefly, because we are 3 days out from our election here, and just a word about this battle that's sort of happening now between Sunak and Farage to try and win over the undecideds. Is there a change in approach here where there's less of the kind of condemnation and disgust coming from people? And we've got Kemi Badenoch today saying her heart breaks whenever she hears that people are voting for reform and sort of wooing them back. Is that an interesting change of tack, do you think?
I certainly think that is the smart approach from Kemi Badenoch, because, the voters just in this election campaign that I've met who say they're going to vote reform, it is striking how many of them are really what you would call true blues. So people who have been Conservative all their lives, often they're people who they've known their local MP, they've been engaged with the party. So these are real Tories who are just so fed up with the government and so angry that they actually are saying, right, we're going to go to reform. So, of course, there's an effort underway to woo them back. And it's interesting, Kemi Badenoch, who is obviously touted as a future leader of the party, trying to effectively start repairing those bridges. And then a big mistake would be to try and make those voters feel like, oh, we don't want you. That would be a huge mistake. I think the interesting element here as well is when people look at Rishi Sunak, almost everyone knows he's not going to be leader afterwards. So Nigel Farage's argument of, well, I'm going to be there in Parliament, even if I've only got a couple of MPs, I'm presenting myself as the effective opposition. While in terms of parliamentary numbers, that might be a bit ridiculous, I can see why people voting might say, well, actually, hang on, I don't even know who's going to lead the Conservatives. I don't know if they're going to be a strong voice.
I don't know who I'm voting for.
Exactly.
Almost.
I don't know who's going to come out of the other end of this and whether or not there'll be a strong voice to oppose Labour. We know that Nigel Farage will be of all the things he is, he will definitely be a strong voice in Parliament if he gets in. So you can understand why people are looking at that and being tempted by it.
Interesting point. OK, Anna Mihailova, Deputy Political Editor for The Mail on Sunday. Thanks very much indeed.
Glastonbury, if you went or if you watched, everybody says it's marvellous, marvellous.
Showing your age, Eamonn, showing your age.
Not showing my age. Shania Twain's my generation.
Yeah, but not fussed.
No, I'm not fussed at the big thrill everybody makes of what it is. They wouldn't go if Shania Twain was released a record tomorrow, they wouldn't be buying it, but then it's almost the music.
I know, but show me another festival in the country where you have 250,000 people in a field. It is,
so
no, it's just unique. It's a unique event and they attract big names. Hundreds of thousands of people made that trek. And today, of course, they have to make their way home. As Eamonn was saying, Shania Twain, Coldplay on Saturday night, Dua Lipa on Friday.
Anyway. But let's not go. Who are we speaking to here? Stephanie Tetchy here. I think she was...
She's there still.
She's there still. And you're going to pretend you had a brilliant time. Tell us more.
Eamonn, I had a fabulous time at Glastonbury. It's now day 5, so, you know, there was the mass arrival, but now it's time for the mass exodus from Worthy Farm. So up to 200,000 people here today are making their way out of here, and it is going to be about the big clean-up for the recycling crew because there is a lot of litter and a lot of debris which has been left behind.
You be packing up your tent like a responsible camper, Steph? I'm assuming you slept in a tent and not some fancy, I don't know, glamping somewhere.
Oh, Isabel, you should know me. I do have a glamping tent. It's my own one. It's a leopard print bell tent, which I put up myself, but I am dreading taking it down. It's probably going to take me the next few hours to get it all packed up and back on the coach back to London.
So what's this you're telling us? They're all pretending they're recycling now as well.
Well, they have to. Eamonn, it's a massive farm, and it's had 200,000 people here for the past 5 days. You know, they have had signs up everywhere telling people to recycle, but, you know, from what I can see, there's still a big hit that's been left behind.
Yeah, and what's been the highlight for you? I did enjoy watching Coldplay on Saturday night. I'm a big Coldplay fan. I love Shania Twain. I didn't manage to see her. Eamonn's wincing. Well, you don't like Coldplay?
Couldn't care less.
I mean, they're massive, global, millions and millions of fans around the world, British band.
I'm not a sheep, I'm not following.
Ah, come on. Well, they were a highlight for me, although I think Cyndi Lauper was plagued with lots of technical issues. There were a few technical problems.
Yeah, that's been a big problem which has plagued Glastonbury over the weekend is the sound issues. There were a lot of sets, including Cyndi Lauper's, Shania Twain's and last night's Bazaar, who headlined on the Pyramid. Just the sound issues for both people who were in the crowd and also people at home. So hopefully they do get that fixed by next year. But I have to say the highlight for me was Coldplay as well. When they were announced as the headliner, a lot of people were saying, oh, it's a boring choice for Glastonbury because it was the 5th time that they've headlined. But the good thing about Coldplay is they know how to put on a show. And then we saw so many touching scenes, including them bringing out Michael J. Fox to play the guitar on Fix You.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Steph. I hope you have a nice warm shower soon and a nice comfy bed.
I will.
You know, I don't really see her as a, you know, roughing it. I don't know how you managed it. Well done, looking very glamorous. When I first started out as a reporter, Glastonbury was in my patch when I was, you know, still sort of brand new to it all. And I was lucky enough, because I was working for the BBC, local BBC at the time, to get the backstage pass with it, because the BBC obviously did a lot of the coverage. So I got to use all the showers and the facilities and see all the big acts. And so it was amazing. But I also got to go inside Worthy Farm, outside of Glastonbury season, if you like. So Emily Evis showed me around her actual farm, and I saw the piano in her living room, which she said that Chris Martin often just sits during the festival and just plays and serenades them all. And he is really synonymous with the festival, very close to the Evises. But for me, it's been a highlight to have been able to have got so close, walking across the Pyramid stage when there's nobody there. Pretty incredible experience.
So you're going to pretend that you've gone to live concert groups and seen them better live on stage or outside than you would listening to them on record?
No, No, it's just a different thing.
So why go?
Because you're with all these people. It's like a football match. Whether you're watching it at home, you probably can see it better watching it at home. But when you're in the crowd, it's a shared experience. The sun's shining. You know, people have had a few drinks. It's an incredible ambience.
A lot of rubbish.
A lot of rubbish.
Yes, indeed. I've never been to an outdoor concert.
Yes, you have. You went to the Rolling Stones.
Would you listen to me? I have never been to an outdoor concert that has sounded better than a record or that has been better than an inside auditorium. Never.
Well,
not with the Eagles, not with the Rolling Stones, not with U2.
Yeah, but newsflash, Eamonn, there's a reason why half the world descended on London last weekend to watch the Eras Tour and Taylor Swift. People love to be at these big events.
That would be my idea of hell. That Taylor Swift thing, absolute hell.
Yeah, maybe, but it's done wonders for the economy.
Give me the Royal Albert Hall.
Yeah.
And give me a seat, a padded seat.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
You can do that at Glastonbury. That's what's so incredible, is that it's so big. Right at the back, you get the sort of oldies with the comfy seats.
Something to do with being old. It's about quality.
Yeah.
It's quality, and it's not quality without all of that. Unless you're stoned out of your head and drunk and mad, whatever, that's fine.
Oh.
No, anyway, today is the start of Wimbledon. That's nice. That's a good thing to go to. And if you are going, and you are going to be in one of the auditoriums or whatever they call arenas or courts or whatever,
yeah.
courts, let's see what the weather will be like. Here's Honor.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, quite a changeable week ahead with some rain and showers. Plenty of dry weather on offer though, where it will feel pleasant as you catch the sunshine. For this morning though, we are going to see quite an unsettled picture as outbreaks of rain spread eastwards across the country. A little bit heavy at times across hills in Scotland. Across the south and southeast though, it should be fairly dry, even starting to see some bright sunshine develop across Wales, Devon and Cornwall. A little bit cloudier in the southeast though, but that's where we'll see the best of the temperatures, highs of around 21 Celsius. Into the evening, we will eventually say goodbye to that rain as it clears off into the North Sea, but it will leave a few dribs and drabs of rain and drizzle across the north of the country. In Scotland, though, a lot drier by the time we reach the evening. A few spots of rain and drizzle across hills, but largely dry. Brightening up across Northern Ireland too, but still some spots of rain and drizzle across the north. This is mainly going to be across hilly areas. Still a bit damp in the northwest of Wales too, the odd shower across East Anglia, but elsewhere some sunshine into the evening before the sun goes down. Through overnight then, generally it is going to be turning drier once those spots of rain and drizzle clear. And once again, there's going to be a mix of cloud and some clearer spells. A fair few showers moving into the northwest of Scotland though, particularly by the time we reach Tuesday morning. Still feeling a little bit cooler under those clear spells, but once again, towns and cities generally remaining in the double digits. For Tuesday then, a bit of a north-south split, starting to see some showers and some longer spells of rain feed into Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, and then later on into Northern England and northwest Wales. Once again, the driest of the weather is going to be across the south and southeast, parts of the Midlands, and once again, the best of the temperatures are going to be across the southeast. Highs once again around 21 Celsius. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
In fairness to you, you are what I call a space cadet. You do, when music hits you, you do all this. And you close your eyes and your hands go up.
When have you ever seen me do that?
At what's her name's wedding?
Nazi's wedding.
Nazi's wedding for start, right? Your tongue goes out, your eyes closed.
I literally do not do that.
You do it.
I don't stick my tongue out and look like Dawn of the Dead.
I wasn't drunk. I was able to watch everything.
Drunk.
Well, that's
I was
even worse.
dancing.
That's worse.
I danced.
With your eyes closed.
Yeah, I love the music, but
all this.
Quite like
But what I'm trying to say is, so in fairness, you would like all that pouncing about. Whereas ever since I've been young, 18, the first concert...
You've never liked pouncing about?
The first concert I ever saw, which was superb, in an auditorium, Johnny Cash and June Carter.
Oh, incredible. I wish I'd seen them.
Well...
See, some are good live.
What?
Some acts are good live.
But that was in a small concert hall. It was in a gospel concert hall, it turned out. And to see the Man in Black was just absolutely incredible. I was like 17 or 18 at the time. And that was absolutely amazing. The one artist I would love to have seen on stage, Elvis Presley.
Michael Jackson for me as well. I wish I'd seen Michael Jackson. I wish I'd seen Tina Turner. I wish I'd seen Whitney.
I have seen Tina Turner.
Oh, that's incredible. The closest I've got is Tina, the musical, which was, I was doing in the aisles. I was going for it.
You can't compare anybody to Elvis. Elvis is the greatest musical performer in the history of the world. So that's more my thing. All this standing, listening to stuff you can't hear. Oh, goodness sake.
So if Elvis was on the Pyramid stage at Glastonbury, would you do it?
If it was my only chance to see Elvis, yes, I would do it.
There we go.
But, Lord Almighty, feel my temperature rising. Higher and higher, it's burning through to my soul. Girl, 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 you're gonna set me on fire. I could entertain you all day with this. He was the man. He was the man. Here is the Great British Giveaway, and it is really great. It is 30,000 quid.
There you go.
£30,000 in tax-free cash really could be yours. It's our biggest cash prize of the year so far. And you could be getting that winning call from us to tell you that you're our next Great British Giveaway winner.
You're joking. Really? Seriously? It's not a wine, what is it?
Oh, slippy neck. Oh, dear.
Oh, my God. This is amazing.
I'm in shock. Like I said, I've never won anything like this. That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon. Thank you.
For a chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Right, now, up next, should tourists pay, people from outside this country pay to enter our museums and art galleries?
We think so.
We think absolutely they should.
What do you think?
Do our next guests find out after this?
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Camilla Tominey. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party. Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tormini.
And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, our GB News viewers and listeners, for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, a former head of the British Museum has said he wants to change the idea that foreign tourists should pay. They should pay £20 to visit an institution that is currently free for everyone, whether you live here or don't.
Well, when you consider that we have to pay to enter the likes of the Colosseum and the Acropolis, it's not only fair that tourists pay to see our attractions or...
and art museums abroad and other... I certainly don't know of any museums that are free abroad. So the question is...
Should our museums stay free for everyone and anyone, or should we be charging our tourists?
OK, this morning, Eamonn Bennett, who's an anti-racism activist, though I'm not sure what this has got to do with racism, and broadcaster and journalist Mike Parry are here to argue for and against this. Eamonn, good morning to you, and I just want to make this clear. Are you just here because you're Eamonn? Are you here because you are a co-convener of Stand Up to Racism? In other words, is this being seen as some sort of racist move?
No, I'm not. Obviously, I'm a supporter of the British Museum. Some of my stuff, some of the people's stuff in this museum right now. My argument is that obviously post-COVID and the devastation that was done because of the incompetence of the government in terms of supplying arts and museums has led to obviously clear deficit in terms of where we are, which can't go on. So there has to be some support for the industry. But I do believe that one of the things about the British Museum is one of the things that they say is that so many of the artifacts are from around the world, stolen actually. I think it's almost to add insult to injury to ask people to pay to see the artifacts that were taken without their permission. One of the things that the museum set itself up for is a kind of World Heritage where you can see the stuff they took from your country free of charge. Because the British state's willing to do that is one of the reasons why we hold on to many of the artifacts from around the world instead of giving them back.
I mean, that's a noble argument, Eamonn, but none of the other countries in the world that also contain artefacts from all over the world indulge in that, do they? We still have to pay to see anything that's come from the UK that might be overseas?
No, but the absolute truth is that we've stolen a lot more over many more years than anybody else. Because we're a very, we had a very, very big empire. And during that time, taking things from other countries without their permission was quite a common problem. And one of the things we've done as part of the World Heritage thing is to make a difference, is to say that those artifacts are open to people all over the world. And also, if you go to the Metropolitan Museum in New York, it's free. If you go to parts of even the Egyptian museums, parts of it are free. It's not true that this is where, or if you go to museums or some French museums, some charge, some don't, but actually there's a mixed bag. I think the foreigner bashing, which has become a national pastime in this country, foreigners are to blame for everything, whether they come as migrants or anything else. That's the reason why anything goes wrong.
No, that's a lot of rubbish you're talking there. I mean, one minute you say that the whole system needs support, and here's a way of supporting the institutions that you're talking about. But you'd rather say it was racist. Mike Parry, what have you got to say on this?
I said there's a very negative.
Look, I think our wonderful country, the United Kingdom, is the cradle of
one at a time. Sorry, we're just going to hear Eamonn. We're just going to hear from Mike quickly. We'll come back to you.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm saying I think our wonderful country, the United Kingdom, is the cradle of modern civilization, not of the ancient world, but of the modern world. You know, for centuries, we've contributed things to the world, which has spread out around the world, and the influence that we've put upon countries around the globe has been massively significant. I think it's a privilege for people to be able to come to this country and track the history of our country through our museums. I can't understand why they've ever been free. The upkeep of museums runs into hundreds of millions of pounds a year. Somebody's got to maintain them and keep them good. Somebody's got to work there. Somebody's got to go around the world and collect the artifacts which are in our museums. And I've always had the adage in life, if something is free, it's probably not worth having. You must remember, newspapers in this country, you used to pay for them, and then you started getting them for free, and the quality of those newspapers deteriorated massively, because if it's worth paying for, it's worth seeing. The Beatles Museum in Liverpool charges an entry. The Beatles are one of the greatest things that's ever happened in this country. If we pay to learn about the Beatles, then we can pay, or ask tourists to pay, to learn about the history of this great nation. I can't see a problem.
So hang on a minute. Can I just check, Mike, are you suggesting that we, as British taxpayers, who at the moment are paying for the upkeeps of these museums, should be paying instead as an entrance fee, not just the foreigners who are coming in as tourists?
I would immediately say tourists should pay to get into the museums in this country because of the hundreds of years, centuries of history that's in there. But I, to be honest, I think there could be a case to charge even people in this country to see what's in our museum.
I think that's a really slippery slope, Mike, because all that ends up happening is it's only the middle classes, the people who can afford it, that actually have anything to do with culture and museums. And a bit like the NHS in this country, I think it's a really important kind of concept that we have, free at the point of use, because it opens it up to people from all backgrounds and people can learn and educate themselves and all the rest of it. But to come back to you, Eamonn, I think a lot of people, and I'm just looking at your, say, our sort of forum there, really annoyed that you're making this parallel between some form of revenue, which you're saying they're crying out for within these museums, is foreigner bashing. No one's saying it's foreigner bashing. We welcome these tourists. They are hugely important to our economy, but they could also be hugely important to our museums.
Yeah, but one of the reasons why they come here is because the museums, the culture is very, very open. And I think that although they don't directly pay for the museums, they bring in billions in other ways in order to subsidise what is our national institutions. I'm talking about our national institutions. And I don't accept the idea if anything's free, it's not worth keeping. As you said, the NHS is worth keeping because it's free at the point of need. And I think that, you know, I'm a council house child. I'm maybe not as rich or as as I come from a background of wealth. I managed to pass my exams and go on, but I had many days because Ken Livingstone, I think, originally made the British Museum free, and I spent many days there as a child. I think this is something that enriches all of us. But I return back to things. Many of the artifacts inside the museum were not given, they were taken against people's will. And actually, one of the things that they're trying to do at the British Museum is try to rectify that. One of the things they consistently say is that it's accessible to you when you come to this country. You'll be able to see those artifacts and it's not cut off from you. I think we should stick to that covenant that we've kept, that although we've taken things from other people without their permission, that they've got access to it at the very minimum.
OK. But, Mike, how do you think we should fund these organisations?
Well, to get back to Isabel's point, I'm not talking about slapping 10, 20, 30 pounds on the door for British residents to go into the museum. But you could charge £1 because anybody who goes there, or maybe charge them on the way out, because when they've been around the magnificent museums we have in this country and see, you know, what wonderful artifacts we've got there, it's a fantastic experience, then you will want to contribute to make sure it's there for future generations.
Well, make it voluntary, I think. Make it voluntary, and those that can will.
Make it voluntary, and then believe me, when somebody's been round the British Museum or the V&A, when they come out, they'll say, this must never end, you know, this must never come to grief. And just to discuss my colleague's issue there about things in museums in this country being stolen, I think you'll find there's a lot of stuff in museums overseas which we could lay claim to, and worldwide there's an international agreement that what are in British museums today can be in foreign museums tomorrow. You said that you don't charge at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in Manhattan, but last time I went there, I definitely paid. I think it was $30, and
Okay.
that is a pleasure to encourage the Americans to keep that sort of place going, and we should have the same rule in this country.
Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for airing the argument. Folks at home, have your say. That's Eamonn and Mike. Thank you both very much indeed. We're back with the papers right after this.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Andy Hilbert with the latest on the roads across the UK. In Bedfordshire, the northbound M1, that's slow with a lane closed at the minute due to an earlier broken down van just before junction 13 for Bedford and Milton Keynes South. In Buckinghamshire, the northbound M1, the earlier broken down car there between Newport Pagnell services and junction 15 for Northampton has gone. And in West Sussex, the northbound M23, the lane is now open on the exit slip road following those emergency repairs at junction 10 at Crawley. In Bristol, in Gloucestershire, the M4 eastbound, the exit slip road to the M5 south is partially blocked due to emergency barrier repairs. That's at junction 20 for the M5 and the Almsbury interchange. And in Staffordshire, the northbound M6, two lanes are closed at the minute due to an accident. Junction 14 for Stafford North, junction 15 for the D Road at Stoke-on-Trent. And at Tyne and Wear, the A1, the Western Bypass South, is now open following some overrunning roadworks near to the Dunstan interchange there this morning. Traffic's on the move. You're up to date.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, and unlike you.
That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
Yeah, for dartball practice.
Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This election night, we're putting on a party.
And you are invited.
We'll be here with you.
Following all the twists and turns.
As well as all the live reaction from our election night watch party.
With our GB News lineup.
And as morning breaks, we'll be here with breakfast from 6 a.m.
As it becomes clear who the winners and the losers really are.
Vote 2024.
Thursday, the 4th of July.
Only on GB News.
Britain's election channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained. I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Anyway, everybody telling me I'm right about concerts.
Not everybody.
No, but Isabel sees the one thing.
No, I've seen them on at your say. They're just feeding your ego.
All right.
Oh, come on, Eamonn, stop being such a Grinch, says Alison.
Hang on, Eamonn. Eamonn's right about concerts. Yeah, anyway, there we go. Right, what's in the papers? Dawn, Neeson and Oscar Reddrop, they've got those. Green issues, Dawn, we're going to talk about, first of all. This is in the Times, and polling suggests that this splits people. So tell us more.
Well, absolutely. It's a focus group. It's not actually one of the polls that we're very used to now. It's a focus group. And the green issues are polarising voters, but most people don't actually care. And this group of people are saying sort of like, yeah, OK, it's interesting, but I'm not really bothered about it. I care more about economy, health, immigration, etc. And the bottom line is we're saying, yeah, OK, we care about it, but we can't can't afford it. And it is interesting that the only group that are really talking about it, only party that are really talking about green issues in all the debates and everything we've had, are the Green Party. No one else is really going on about it.
So what you're saying is when it comes to a vote, it's not necessarily going to influence, or people aren't going to give the vote because of the green issue.
It's not the deciding factor. I mean, there's so many things.
I think people care about where housing estates are built and things like that, and if trees are ripped up and the pollution in rivers. I think they care about
yeah,
that.
It's almost kind of visceral, in-your-face, day-to-day environment that people care about more, rather than we all need to make these really huge sacrifices to convenience and when maybe a far-off country are doing something.
But it does strike me
direction.
that it is one of those things that, because it is expensive and inconvenient to do anything about it, we put it off, and therefore it ends up costing more.
But it's the wrong time for it. People have bigger worries, bigger issues.
No, but there needs to be. They need to just come up with more inventive ways of dealing with it that won't put us out.
No, they need to come up with ways of making housing affordable and the NHS work and various things like that. That is much more important to people. That's what's wrong.
Except it'll be more expensive for future generations care.
No, well, future generation, they're not you, no.
Yeah, but we have to be responsible for future generations as well, rather than leave the world in a worse place for your grandchildren.
You're going to do that.
I'm just saying...
Well, I'm not going to do that.
OK,
so
well, there you go.
We'll just chat amongst ourselves, Oscar, shall we?
But I'm saying you're not going to sit there and say, future generations deserve my vote in the way I'm going to do this. You're going to vote for the here and now, and that's the reality.
The green issues people do mention in here that they care about is driving. Can they afford to buy a petrol or a diesel car, or do they have to get an electric car? And water. I mean, you know, the state of our water, the sewage in the water.
Again, I find that very believable, and I think the water situation is ghastly, and I think something should be done against these utility companies. And I think the idea of a car, if you're into buying a car, people genuinely don't know by petrol, diesel or electric, and the electric ones seem crud. So and they're changing. I saw a report last week that a new battery's been invented in Britain that can charge a battery within 5 minutes, a car battery, and give you 3 hours driving or so. Which would influence the way people... You would say,
it would.
Well, I'm not going to buy that electric car because I've got to charge that battery for 2 hours or whatever, or 3 hours. Whatever. So I can see those practical issues coming to fore there.
Right, Oscar, this is the Express, pages 4 and 5, and it says Reform voters won't get what they think, according to who? According
to Kemi Badenoch, who, you know, potentially, if she holds on to her seat, which she's actually making quite a, you know, kind of human level... almost, I wouldn't say plea, but, you know... She's got
20,000 majority.
Well, but that is...
Nothing's a government anymore.
Exactly, that is the state of play at the moment. And I think, you know, she's quite understandably going about it in a different way in terms of trying to get out the vote, both for her personally, I'm sure, so maybe she can potentially put her name forward as a leader of the party moving forward, but just Conservatives across the country, completely different way of doing that, as opposed to, you know, the scaremongering supermajority line, which I think is actually just pushing people in the direction they naturally want to go. It doesn't work anymore. You know, you can't scaremonger people away from something that maybe actually they want. You know, you have the electorate saying, why do you keep telling me to be fearful of this Labour majority? I'm not voting Conservative. I want a Labour majority. So I don't think that line of messaging works. This is a lot cleverer. This is much smarter. And in terms of actually, when you look at the paper that she's written it in, and obviously, you know, the job that I do and did when I was at Number 10 is another indicator. You know, she's very much, you know, Reform is a real Express kind of favourite at the moment. They're really dominating those pages in a way that the Tories would have wanted to be this close to election. So for her to intervene and interject in that way is also quite smart from her.
OK, thank you very much indeed for that. More views, more stories right after this. Don't go away.
Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tominey.
And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, RGB News viewers and listeners for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
We've been talking about the White House is concerned with playing down concerns about the health of President Biden, who's apparently taken to freezing during public events. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni was seen herding the president back into a photo with world leaders after he shuffled aimlessly away from the group. In the last few days, videos and images of the president freezing at a fundraising event went viral, but the White House stated that they were deceptively edited cheap fakes. With me now, again, is my panel, the historian and broadcaster Tessa Dunlop and the associate comment editor of The Telegraph, Mujaz Ahmed. Mujaz, I mean, you are a journalist. What about this idea that in some way the images could be fake?
They could be fake, and some of them will be fake. But the reason these AI images or AI videos or weirdly edited videos are a problem for the White House is that people have seen enough of Biden freezing in real life.
It's not going away, this one. It's perception versus reality, but as Mustafa said, it doesn't matter because it's now become Biden's reality, which is bushfighting these questions about his ability connected to his age. I don't understand where you go from here. He's got a vice president who isn't presidential material, who I think polls worse than he does, despite these, you would call them ageist. In many ways, it's about his competence, isn't it?
It can make a big difference when the president whose competence, mental competence, is under question, is running on the matter of competence itself. They're trying to paint Trump as being incompetent, as being not presidential, as being unable to lead, while they have a candidate who struggles to get off the stage. That's the issue for them. And it's not really about age. He's not much older than Trump, as you say. It's about the appearance of age.
GB News, the People's Channel.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party.
We can talk about moth. We're in the company of Oscar Redrop, Dawn Neeson, and I don't know whether people on the panel are interested in space travel or not, or perhaps even living on Mars at some point in the future. Personally, it's not for me, but I am always fascinated, apparently, that desert moss is now offering hope for cultivating on Mars.
So scientists in China say they have found, I'm not going to pronounce the name there because I have no idea how to do that, but they have found a type of moss in regions including
Oh dear, can't even say Antarctica.
Sorry, that was really embarrassing. That are able to withstand Mars-like conditions, and from that perspective, that would be some form of life that they can see living on Mars, which is, I think, since every single human being who's been alive on Earth, every generation, has been in the kind of the foreground of, you know, potential, the next stage, the next visit, the next kind of, you know, human
frontier.
Civilization, and that first step being the crucial step. How do we get survival on it, on the planet in those conditions?
Well, if we need to live on Mars, I just want a bullet.
Yeah, fair.
If it comes to that point, you know.
You're going to shoot Eamonn or yourself?
Maybe we can both at the same time, save everyone a job.
One bullet.
Well, I agree with you. Why would you want to live on Mars?
Exactly.
No, I wouldn't. But the story, the thing that worries me about this is China, Chinese scientists.
Yeah.
It's being researched in a Chinese laboratory.
But they have a very, very ambitious space programme.
Yes.
And, you know, we shouldn't ignore that. Because,
No, they do, yeah. But they worry me sometimes.
No,
some of the
100%.
stuff that comes out of their laboratories.
100%. Cultivating stuff.
Would you be eating that moss?
Probably not.
Oscar, here's an interesting story. This ULEZ charge, which causes so much grief to so many people, it's so awful for people who have a car and they can't change it and they're charged these ULEZ charges in London. But there is a business online where you can buy number plates that are hard to read, hard to recognise.
Yeah, and these people, in order to avoid this charge, are paying as little as 10 quid to get these kind of shifty number plates. And as a result, the system can't read them, the cameras can't read them, and they get misreads and they get away with the charge. The serious point to make here is that actually the one good Tory by-election result that I can remember over the last few years came in a ULEZ, hotspot area. And actually that was despite people's view of the Tories, as we know, they're actually willing to back them on this issue. Because it is, it's something I feel relatively passionately about, because you will have working class families who want to do the shop, take the kids to school, then maybe go to a second job.
Or visit people from around the country. You know, you live in Manchester, you want to come to London, and it's 90 quid a time penalty.
And it's actually... that I know it doesn't get talked about that much, but it's kind of outrageous, to be honest. It really is. So, and I'm sure Labour government won't do anything about it.
what does it really do? What does it really do? Does it really clean the atmosphere? That's the question.
There's actually no scientific studies that say it has any effect on the atmosphere or even on the amount of accidents.
OK. Guys, thank you very much indeed. We'll see you again in 40 minutes' time. Dawn Neeson, Oscar Reddrop, thank you both very much indeed.
Here's the weather with Honor Krizik.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, quite a changeable week ahead with some rain and showers. Plenty of dry weather on offer though, where it will feel pleasant as you catch the sunshine. For this morning though, we are going to see quite an unsettled picture as outbreaks of rain spread eastwards across the country. A little bit heavy at times across hills in Scotland. Across the south and southeast though, it should be fairly dry, even starting to see some bright sunshine develop across Wales, Devon and Cornwall. A little bit cloudier in the southeast though, but that's where we'll see the best of the temperatures, highs of around 21 Celsius. Into the evening, we will eventually say goodbye to that rain as it clears off into the North Sea, but it will leave a few dribs and drabs of rain and drizzle across the north of the country. In Scotland, though, a lot drier by the time we reach the evening. A few spots of rain and drizzle across hills, but largely dry. Brightening up across Northern Ireland too, but still some spots of rain and drizzle across the north. This is mainly going to be across hilly areas. Still a bit damp in the northwest of Wales too, the odd shower across East Anglia, but elsewhere some sunshine into the evening before the sun goes down. Through overnight then, generally it is going to be turning drier once those spots of rain and drizzle clear. And once again, there's going to be a mix of cloud and some clearer spells. A fair few showers moving into the northwest of Scotland though, particularly by the time we reach Tuesday morning. Still feeling a little bit cooler under those clear spells, but once again, towns and cities generally remaining in the double digits. For Tuesday then, a bit of a north-south split, starting to see some showers and some longer spells of rain feed into Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, and then later on into Northern England and northwest Wales. Once again, the driest of the weather is going to be across the south and southeast, parts of the Midlands, and once again, the best of the temperatures are going to be across the southeast. Highs once again around 21 Celsius. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News. The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Andy Hilbert with the latest on the roads across the UK this Monday morning. In Bedfordshire, the northbound M1, that's slow due to an earlier broken down van just before junction 13 for Bedford and Milton Keynes South. In Bristol, the M32 north, a lane closed there. This is going to affect you due to a broken down vehicle at junction 2 for Eastville. And in Bristol and Gloucestershire, the eastbound M4, the exit slip road there to the M5 South is partially blocked due to emergency barrier repairs at junction 20 for the M5 at the Alderbury interchange. In Staffordshire, the northbound M6, two lanes are closed at the minute due to an accident. Junction 14 Stafford North to junction 15 for the D Road at Stoke-on-Trent, and also two at the moment as well in Surrey in the Esher area on Claremont Lane. We've currently got it closed due to a serious accident. That's going to affect you from Milbourne Lane to Claremont Drive. It's causing queues to the A3 there at the moment. As you'd imagine, traffic's looking particularly slow from what we can see. You're up to date.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
£30,000 in tax-free cash really could be yours. It's our biggest cash prize of the year so far, and you could be getting that winning call from us to tell you that you're our next Great British Giveaway winner.
You're joking. Really? Seriously? It's not a wine. What is it?
Oh, slippy neck. Oh, dear.
Oh, my God. This is amazing.
I'm in shock. Like I said, I've never won anything like this. That is absolutely fantastic.
Over the moon. Thank you.
For a chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. GB News, Britain's election channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
England football team keeps the dream alive.
A nail-biting victory sends them straight to the quarter-final.
As Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane strike to eventually save the day.
So, yep, just as the fat lady was beginning to sing, just as we were saying it's Iceland all over again, England snatched victory from, well, way past the jaws of defeat to beat Slovakia and head into the Euros quarter-finals against Switzerland on Saturday. And England legend Chris Waddle's going to join us shortly to pick over the bones.
Look forward to that. Emmanuel Macron, humiliated as the French right surges to its first round of election voting.
Rishi Sunak turns up the heat on reform as he battles Nigel Farage over undecided voters.
Lost without a trace, Jay Slater's family left distraught as Spanish police call off the search for him.
Shania Twain rocks the legend spot at Glastonbury as the iconic festival wraps up for another year.
Hello, a wet start across Scotland, Northern Ireland and parts of northern England. You can put away the raincoats in the south though, with plenty of dry weather on the cards. Stay tuned for the details.
Right, it's 1 minute past 8 o'clock. A very good morning to you. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster and this is GB News Breakfast.
Are you an England fan? How are you feeling this morning after that fortunate win against Slovakia last night? Let's talk to Paul Coyte.
It was never in doubt, Eamon. Let's face it. It was
1 minute, 20 seconds left.
Oh,
Excuse me while
goodness me. You know what? There's nothing like a last-minute winner, is there? I mean, and it was bad. The team were playing awful. The first half, probably the worst football I've seen England play. We're all thinking we're out. It's going to be a disaster. It's Iceland over again. And then...
But it wasn't a last-minute winner. However, it's funny that you see it like that because it sort of turns out to be like that. It changed the whole form. It lifted everybody's mood, did it?
Yeah, it does. But it does. That's what goals do. And also, it's great players that will change games. We've seen it from the beginning of time. You can have a great player that does not have any effect on the game whatsoever. And there's Jude Bellingham there.
Well,
he's just turned 21 years old.
In fairness, there's two of them because the next goal comes from Kane and he just nods it in beautifully.
Yeah, I mean, he had a quiet game as well, but it was getting desperate. Everybody was crying out for substitutes. I think the only person that's thinking, no, I don't want to make a substitution is the manager, Gareth Southgate. Eventually, substitutions were made, but it really was a roll of the dice. We went, I keep using phrases like roll of the dice, but it really was. Gareth Southgate spoke after the game, and, what was he? Was he a lucky manager? People keep saying this Napoleon thing, which is driving me crazy. The quote about Napoleon saying that there were no great generals, only lucky generals. They were the people that he wanted. But you can't be lucky all the way through an entire tournament.
Well, that was very lucky.
Although Napoleon did win, I think it was 1803 euros, I think he won when he was manager of France. Let's hear from Gareth Southgate anyway.
First half, we struggled to get through their pressure. We were too slow moving the ball, and they were very compact in their midfield, and that's not the first time we've had that problem. Second half, we changed the way we built a little bit, and that helped us to get through that first line of pressure a bit better. And I thought for a young team, they showed great patience at moments of the game where the encouragement would have been to get the ball forward earlier and rush decisions. We created a super goal that ends up being disallowed, which is, again, a huge momentum shift at that time. The shot that hits the post. Of course, in the end, it's an old-fashioned long throw that helps us to get back in the game. And the two players that get the goals, you could arguably take off 15 minutes from the end because they looked out on their feet physically. But that's what they're capable of, and that's why we stuck with them.
Goodness, he's about as dynamic as the team, isn't he? My goodness me, and it was a nod on to stop us nodding off.
It was, though. It was, and it was the old-fashioned throw-in that was thrown in for Kyle Walker. I was watching it, I don't know about you, and I'm thinking, is he good at long throws? I'm not sure where this is going to go in the box.
Yeah.
Mark Gahey just nods it backwards, and then it was a brilliant goal. There's no question about it.
Yeah,
it was a brilliant goal from a brilliant player who's been very, very quiet throughout the game.
But the manager there is identifying, problems, getting the ball forward in the second half. Well, they didn't do that. They didn't, and he could have made substitutions to make that happen. And he brought on the young guy, Colin Gallagher. Yeah. I thought was very good. He made things happen, but he just didn't bring on enough players. He knew what the problem was, and to start talking about this being a young team as if it's some sort of excuse. They're young, they're vibrant, they've got talent, they've got skill. People like Mainu, all of them. Look how young they are and how brilliant they are.
Everything points at players that will play an exciting way, go forward. I mean, we look at other teams like Spain last night. Yeah. We are not at that level. It's possible. We've got it there. We've got the talent to do it. It's just whether we go.
If I saw left to right anymore, left, right, back to the keeper.
Like Wimbledon.
It's like Wimbledon.
It's the Chuckle Brothers, really,
No, it wasn't good enough. Look, they're there. They've got to do it again against Switzerland on Saturday.
Absolutely.
Is anything going to change?
I don't know, but I'll tell you who we will speak to. We'll have Ramon Vega on, I think, by the end of the week, our friend Ramon Vega, our Swiss player. And also, but more importantly, Chris Waddle will be joining us. He knows what momentum's all about. 1990 in the World Cup, it was really bad until Belgium. Then there was a goal from David Platt, and things went like that. So maybe we could be heading that way.
Some words of wisdom.
And that's good. What time have you got David Platt? Chris Waddle on?
Chris Waddle, about 8:30.
Great. Look forward to it.
Thank
you. Right, Marine Le Pen declared her party triumphant in the French elections, virtually, in her words, wiping out Emmanuel Macron during the first round of voting yesterday.
Well, it's a bruising backfire for Macron, who called this snap vote following Le Pen's surge in the recent European elections.
And closer to home, Rishi Sunak is turning up the heat against the right-wing insurgents in the UK as he aims to win over the millions of undecided voters.
Let's talk now to Mark Houghton. Mark is a former Liberal Democrat MP. Mark, morning to you.
Morning.
Mark, how does this affect us? What happens or what may happen in the French elections?
I think it will give a boost to Nigel Farage and Reform. I think what they will say is, look, across Europe, we're not the only country that has concerns about immigration. So Farage will be keen to point to this French election result and say, if the people of France are concerned about immigration, then come on, the people in this country need also to come out and show their concern. So Reform will definitely use it, but it will be a shock and a concern to the mainstream parties, particularly because, as you've said in your reports, there are many people still undecided, and a lot of people, I think, are looking at Reform and are not quite sure whether to put their cross there or not this Thursday.
Just a really brief interview with you because we have the Home Secretary standing by, but I just wanted to ask about this discussion that lots of people are having about whether or not, if Labour win a supermajority on a relatively small share of the vote, there will be a big debate about whether we should switch to proportional representation. Do you think the Liberal Democrats could work in a kind of cross-party way with Reform to campaign for that? Because they'd be the net beneficiaries of that.
I mean, bizarrely, it's probably the one thing I have in common with Nigel Farage. He's called for changing the voting system. If Farage's party get 18, 20% of the votes and very few or no seats, then I think it will be another strong argument for changing the voting system. It needs to happen. It needs to make this country more democratic.
Okay. Mark Oaten, former Liberal Democrat MP, thank you.
Let's go to the Home Secretary, James Cleverly, and we're going to talk to him this morning. Good morning, Mr. Cleverly.
Good morning. Good morning.
Now, do you actually believe there are thousands of people this morning waiting in Calais thinking, we mightn't just cross yet, we're going to wait until there will be a Labour government, which is looking very likely?
Well, I have seen the reports from Telegraph journalists who went to northern France, who spoke to those people waiting on the French coast, and their words were that they were waiting for a Labour government because they had heard that Labour were going to take Rwanda off the table. So these are not my accusations, these are direct quotes from people waiting in France. And indeed, one of them said that they are praying for a Labour government because they had heard that Labour were going to scrap the Rwanda scheme.
Although we spoke to Nigel Farage ourselves, who was in the Channel and actually witnessing, I think it was taking the toll to over 50,000 migrants since Rishi Sunak became Prime Minister. But I wonder, I mean, talking about migration, we're looking at what's happened in France, Marine Le Pen giving Macron a bit of a thumping, and largely over this issue of migration. Is there a bit of a warning there, do you think, about what might happen here on Thursday?
Well, I gave a speech in New York at the tail end of last year where I said that if governments don't get a grip of immigration and work cooperatively and internationally, there is a risk that extremist parties take advantage of the disquiet. And I've been saying that since I was first appointed as Home Secretary. And the Conservatives are taking action. I've brought down legal migration, and the policies that I put in place are predicted to reduce legal migration by about 300,000. And the work that we are doing with the Rwanda scheme and other elements of it will have a deterrent effect on small boats. But all those things are at risk under Labour, and I worry that when Labour, not if, when Labour falls short on this issue, the anger of the British people could erupt in a whole load of different ways. That is why it's so important people think very carefully how they vote on the 4th of July.
And you know, just listening to you there, James, if this migration thing continues to spiral upwards, and if it gets worse under Labour, what would that cost us? How on earth do we pay for that?
Well, that's a really important question. Now, border control has never been free, so we have to understand that. But when Rishi and Keir Starmer had their debate, and Keir Starmer said, I will break the criminal gangs, when pushed by the Prime Minister, when asked how are you actually going to do that, he had no answer. He's going to scrap the Rwanda scheme. Their big policy announcements are the creation of two new Home Office units, a border command and a returns unit. They both already exist. They're already existing in the Home Office. So Labour are basically saying they are going to do less and somehow achieve more. It's like having an immigration policy where you're praying for rain. You have to actually have a plan. We have a plan. Labour do not.
Nigel Farage wants to be, and thinks he could well be, the largest opposition party. And there is a problem, isn't there, for Rishi Sunak and indeed the Conservatives when you have a leader who you suspect, come Friday, probably won't be the leader of the party. So you're asking people to vote for someone who probably won't be there. Whereas Nigel Farage is saying, you know, should I get elected, I'm going to be the real voice of opposition. And that's a problem for you guys, isn't it?
Well, voters only vote for their local candidates. And, Rishi is standing in Yorkshire, Nigel is standing in Clacton. So you are voting for your local candidate. And I know Nigel loves it to all be about him, but the simple fact of the matter is he doesn't have any more answers to this challenge than Labour does. And at this election, the choice is really simple. Which of the two parties that can credibly form a government do you want to form a government? Do you want it to be the Conservative Party? We have a plan. We are determined to bring down immigration. Or Keir Starmer's Labour Party, which is led by a man who said that all immigration legislation was racist. The Labour Party has voted against stronger border controls over 130 times, voted to delay the Rwanda scheme, which is why it's not yet up and running. So that is the choice at this election, and I think those undecided voters that are still out there in significant numbers in the last days of this campaign will think, hang on a second, what do I really want? A party led by someone who took the knee when our police officers were getting assaulted during the BLM protests, or a party led by someone who is absolutely committed to doing the right thing by the British people?
There's a report today, front page of the Eye, which basically says that neither you nor Labour, really have a clue with what to do with the economy. The headline is UK heading for stagnation after the election. Dozens of economists warning Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer that they're failing to offer a serious plan to grow the UK economy. There's a lack of investment, and that's set to choke recovery. What would you say to that?
Well, I think the British economy is very much at risk under a Labour government with their enormous hidden tax plans. But let's look at our performance recently. We have got inflation down from over 11% to 2%. We have got wages growing faster than prices now for 6 or 7 months.
Sorry, but let's look
at what we have done since. No, we've got to understand that much of that inflation was driven by global circumstances. But the point is, the team that are at the head of the government at the moment are a team which has brought inflation down to 2%, has got the fastest growing economy of any country in the G7, wages growing faster than prices, unemployment staying low, international investment in the UK at record numbers. So that is what we have done, and that is what we will continue to do if returned to government. The Labour Party will stifle business investment, ramp up taxes, crash the economy, increase unemployment. And the reason I know that's what will happen is because that is what they always do. Remember that note? There's no money left. That's what happens when you have a Labour government. They break the economy, and the British people do not deserve that.
Although people will remember the disastrous trust budget and the impact that it had on it. Well, exactly. And also, just to be clear, governments aren't responsible for bringing down inflation. That's the responsibility of the Bank of England, which is independent of government.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. The Bank of England sets interest rates. The action that the Prime Minister and the Chancellor took in terms of the energy price cap, that had a downward pressure on inflation. Making sure that the public sector pay awards were sensible, that has a downward pressure on inflation. We took action to bring inflation down. The Bank of England is solely responsible for setting interest rates. And we did those inflation reduction measures without driving up interest rates and without driving up unemployment. That was a very, very tight needle to thread, but we did it, and it will be ruined by a Labour government.
James Cleverly, we'll say goodbye to you. We'll let you go. Before I do, did you watch the match last night? I just wondering, did you watch it? I don't know if you're a football fan or not. Were you able to watch the match last night? I
finished campaigning literally just before kick-off, so I was watching it on my phone. 90 minutes of pain and anguish, then obviously extra time lifted my spirits.
Good man.
Well done, Jude.
It might sum up your week this week. Pain and anguish. We'll find out if your patience will be lifted by Thursday, Friday. Thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
And we did mention the Prime Minister's constituency there, Richmond and Northallerton. So it's our responsibility to mention all the other candidates. Jason Barnett standing for as an independent, Count Binface party. Daniel Callaghan for the Liberal Democrats. Angie Campion, another independent. Louise Dickens for the Workers' Party of Britain, and Kevin Foster for the Green Party. Rio Goldhammer, the Yorkshire Party, and Nico Omilana, Independent. Brian Richmond, Independent. Sir Archibald Stanton for the Monster Raving Loony Party, the Prime Minister for the Conservatives, and Lee Taylor for Reform. Tom Wilson for Labour.
Well, we've to read this here's another list. Apparently, if you mention Clacton, you've got to say everybody that's there. So there they all are. If you're on radio, I'm sorry you can't hear this, but there they are. All those people are there. And we flick to the next page.
Giles Watley.
These are the sort of stupid rules that come in with elections that we shouldn't listen to.
Matthew Benson for the Liberal Democrats.
Excellent.
Nigel Farage for Reform. And
Brilliant. Who cares?
Osborne for the Greens.
Thank you. Right, let's get your weather update now. Honor Chiswick with that.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, quite a changeable week ahead with some rain and showers. Plenty of dry weather on offer though, where it will feel pleasant as you catch the sunshine. For this morning though, we are going to see quite an unsettled picture as outbreaks of rain spread eastwards across the country. A little bit heavy at times across hills in Scotland. Across the south and southeast though, it should be fairly dry, even starting to see some bright sunshine develop across Wales, Devon and Cornwall. A little bit cloudier in the southeast though, but that's where we'll see the best of the temperatures, highs of around 21 Celsius. Into the evening, we will eventually say goodbye to that rain as it clears off into the North Sea, but it will leave a few dribs and drabs of rain and drizzle across the north of the country. In Scotland, though, a lot drier by the time we reach the evening. A few spots of rain and drizzle across hills, but largely dry. Brightening up across Northern Ireland too, but still some spots of rain and drizzle across the north. This is mainly going to be across hilly areas. Still a bit damp in the northwest of Wales too, the odd shower across East Anglia, but elsewhere some sunshine into the evening before the sun goes down. Through overnight then, generally it is going to be turning drier once those spots of rain and drizzle clear. And once again, there's going to be a mix of cloud and some clearer spells. A fair few showers moving into the northwest of Scotland though, particularly by the time we reach Tuesday morning. Still feeling a little bit cooler under those clear spells, but once again, towns and cities generally remaining in the double digits. For Tuesday then, a bit of a north-south split, starting to see some showers and some longer spells of rain feed into Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, and then later on into Northern England and northwest Wales. Once again, the driest of the weather is going to be across the south and southeast, parts of the Midlands, and once again, the best of the temperatures are going to be across the southeast. Highs once again around 21 Celsius. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Right, whatever you're doing, wherever you're going, stop, because we have a great British giveaway, and I mean great, don't I?
It's great, to the tune of £30,000. It is our biggest prize to date, and here is how little old you could win it.
It's our summer treat to you. Your chance to win an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Our biggest cash prize of the year so far. With an extra £30,000 in your bank account this year, you could take the ultimate financial holiday and send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. £30,000 could get you those nagging home improvements done, buy that brand new car, or just enable you to kick back and relax for the rest of the year. For a chance to win £30,000 £1,000 in tax-free cash? Text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck. Still to come, we are joined by two members of the public who are gearing up to cast their vote on Thursday. That's next right here on GB News Breakfast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
In World War I, 309 men from Britain and the Commonwealth never came home because they'd been shot at dawn. The majority were killed for desertion, cowardice and sleeping at post. Appearing at their court-martials and told they'd brought shame on their country, these men had no opportunity to defend themselves and were executed by a firing squad. The National Memorial Arboretum launched a fundraising campaign to restore the memorial, which has stood for more than 20 years.
Thank you to your viewers for their support for the fundraising campaign, and thanks to the generosity of so many people, we've been able to replace all 309 of the posts that represent those young men that were shot in the First World War. Restoration of this really precious memorial.
The centrepiece of the memorial is the young soldier, blindfolded and facing his execution. In September 1916, Private Harry Farr was ordered to the front. Already suffering from shell shock, he was overwhelmed and refused his orders. He was court-martialed, and in a trial lasting only 20 minutes, he was sentenced to death. On the day of his execution, he faced the firing squad without a blindfold. Janet Booth is Private Farr's granddaughter and was part of the public campaign to have those who were shot at dawn officially pardoned.
When I asked my gran, do you know where I could find Harry's grave? And she looked at my mother, and there was this sort of look between them, and then she said, well, he hasn't got a grave because they didn't warrant, he deserved one because he was shot as a coward and had let his country down. We can come here as a family and pay our respects to him, and also for all the other families, it's somewhere to come and remember their loved one.
The People's Channel.
This election night, we're putting on a party.
And you are invited.
We'll be here with you.
Following all the twists and turns.
As well as all the live reaction from our election night watch party.
With our GB News lineup.
And as morning breaks, we'll be here with breakfast from 6 a.m.
As it becomes clear who the winners and the losers really are.
Vote 2024.
Thursday, the 4th of July.
Only on GB News, Britain's election channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, and unlike you.
That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice.
Britain's newsroom on GB News, weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
3 days to go till the election. Millions of you still making up your minds and as to what to do, what to cast come Thursday.
Well, let's speak to some guests now. Two of those voters are Mary Carmen Sanchez-Morris, a fitness coach and small business owner, and Bill Geen, a farmer and pensioner. Good morning to both of you. Mary Carmen, let's start with you. How are you feeling about which way you might vote? And tell us a bit about if you've made your mind up.
Still a bit undecided. I'm really interested by Conservatives' thoughts around women's health. I know they are saying that they're going to improve access to mental health services and pelvic health services, and they've still kept their promise of increasing the childcare hours. So my son's only 1 and he's now going to be getting 30 hours free childcare from September, which is huge. Labour are also promising support from maternity care as well. So still quite undecided here. Undecided.
OK. Let's speak now to Bill. And good day today, Bill. It's a rare one for you. Does that make life easier for you on the farm?
Yeah, well, I think you're in London, Eamonn, and I'm in North Devon, and it's raining.
Oh, that's sad to hear. OK, what or of any of these parties, always it comes up to election time and they all go to the National Farmers Union Congress and they do all these things and they pretend they're interested. But, you know, the truth is, Bill, they're not interested. There's not enough farming votes to keep any of them in power.
I don't know whether there's or not. There certainly should be, because we're a very important part of the economy. We're the people that produce the food and look after the countryside. And I think some parties recognise that more than others. Some have a more balanced view, and that's why I'm a Conservative. I think they're the most balanced view of the countryside.
And are you going to stay a Conservative?
Yes, I am. Yeah. I'm not a socialist.
What do they do?
And surprisingly, whatever you know, Keir Starmer tries to sort of pretend that they're not. They're still a socialist party, or at least they should, you know, they are. And so I'm surprised that people that considering voting reform are voting socialist, to be honest.
But Bill, what are the Conservatives doing for you? I'm just interested as to why they have your faith.
Well, they understand the countryside, and it's not just about you know, the simple things. It's a deep understanding. I mean, Rishi Sunak, as you pointed out, is in a constituency in the north. I probably have to mention it again. Sorry about that. In the north of England, and there are lots of rural constituencies, and it's an important part of the background of this country, which I think that they understand. They've always been aware of countryside issues other than farming, things like country sports. They're open to. The Labour Party will no doubt get rid of hunting and get rid of shooting, which, whatever you think about them, are a really important part of the fabric of the countryside.
OK.
Mary Carmen, you used to be a paediatric intensive care nurse. Does your views of the NHS and the way that the Conservatives have managed it over the last 14 years or so influence your vote, or you're still happy to give them your vote, given, you know, all the strike action that we've seen?
I used to always vote Labour when I was back nursing. I do think there is a time for change. I know the Conservative Party have said that they are going to increase spending but get 92,000 more nurses into the NHS. However, we're always hearing promises from both parties they're going to get more nurses in. However, they need to pay them more. There need to be more incentives for nurses to come back. I mean, myself, I left the profession, and I know so many of my friends have done so too. So it's not just about saying, you know, we're going to recruit lots more nurses, but how are you going to do that?
Such a shame to lose people like you as paediatric intensive care nurses. I mean, it's such an important job. It should be a real sort of food for thought, really, I think, for politicians, hearing you say that.
But good to listen to both of you. Thank you very much for your time and sharing your views with us this morning. We've got to leave it there. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Bill. Thank you very much. Thank you. Former England winner. We're still in the aftermath of what happened last night. And can you believe the result? Former England winger, Chris Waddle. He's joining us right after the break.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Andy Hilbert with the latest on the roads across the UK this Monday morning. At the moment on the M1 in Bedfordshire, everything's looking a lot better now northbound following the earlier broken down ban just before junction 13 for Bedford and Milton Keynes South. In Bristol, coming out of Bristol, the northbound M32 heading north, the lane closure there due to a broken down vehicle at junction 2 for Eastville. In Bristol on the M4 eastbound, the exit slip to the M5 south is partially blocked due to emergency barrier repairs at junction 20 for the M5 and the Almesbury interchange. And in Carmarthenshire, the westbound M4 queuing due to an earlier broken down vehicle at junction 49 there at the moment. Currently as well in Staffordshire, the northbound M6, there's a lane closure due to this accident. This is going north on the M6 in Staffordshire, junction 14 for Stafford North to junction 15 for the D Road at Stoke-on-Trent. And the M8 in Glasgow, the Kingston Bridge, partially blocked eastbound due to a broken down vehicle this morning. Europe Today.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, and unlike you. That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice. Britain's Newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tominey.
And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, our GB News viewers and listeners, for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel. In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Well, we're going to talk about the fallout from the match last night, the big match, and the result: England 2, Slovakia 1 after extra time. Who would have thought we got to that stage and... whoa.
You know what? I think it's probably quite a few of us thought and worried that maybe it wouldn't be as easy as we thought it was going to be. I think it proved so. That, I mean, the first half... we look at all the papers. I mean, all the pictures, all the papers. Look, we've got this. We've got Jude Bellingham here and everybody. It looks great, saved by the bell. You would think, if you hadn't seen the game, that England were fantastic, have managed to move through. But they were not good again. First half was really bad. The second half wasn't much better. We only had 2 shots. Did you know that were actually goalwards in the whole game, and they were the 2 goals. So we hadn't even got a shot at goal in the first half. So,
well, at this stage, let's bring in former England winger Chris Waddle, who joins us now. Forget his perspective on things. Chris, good morning to you. What did you think?
Good morning. Yeah, well, I think people have got a little bit excited because we scored goals at the end of the game. I think up to that 89th minute or 40 seconds from the end, got to say, another very poor performance.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it, Chris? It does mask it. There's nothing like a last-minute goal for everybody to go absolutely bananas. We all went crazy. And I think everybody remembers that but kind of forgets what happened before. It is a worry, though, isn't it, still going forward?
It is. I think the problem when you look at the team is that we've got so many individual footballers who are well respected in the game and are very, very good players. But sometimes you need a mix. And I think we've got players who all want the football, and consequently you've got nobody who wants to run off the ball and run in behind and make space for other players. I think everybody's attracted to the football. I think, most teams, whatever team you look at, whoever you support, you've got them players who you probably think he's not an international footballer, but he fits into the team very well and allows them top players to perform. I think we've just got a team full of excellent footballers.
Chemistry. So what you're saying then, it's almost like when you're a kid or you watch small children playing football, everybody goes around the ball the whole time. It's kind of like a professional version of that almost.
Yeah, they all want the ball. Every one of them wants the ball, which is not a bad thing. They're not hiding. They all want the ball, but there's no movement off the ball. So when you pick it up, I mean, I felt for Alexander-Arnold the first game, there's nobody runs behind, nobody makes runs where he can hit his passes. So all of a sudden, everybody's playing 10-yard passes. And I mean, I looked at Spain last night, and Spain were magnificent, the way their attitude, the way they took players on, the wingers, 2 wingers, who when they got the ball, first thing they thought was, can I beat the fullback? Can I cross it? Can I shoot? We get the ball in great areas, and we check out and go back or square. And unfortunately, For me, you've got to make changes. You've got to be brave, because Switzerland are an excellent team, and in fact, Switzerland could win the tournament, I think.
Look, listen, Chris, Cordy and I could have got picked on there last night. 10-yard passes. We got to just sit and knocked it between us. 73% England possession, but nobody's doing anything with it. Now, you look at a creative player like you, you'd have been on that wing. You'd have wanted to take on people. You'd have wanted to beat people. You'd have been dying for the ball. Do you think, under Gareth Southgate, you're under strict instructions not to push forward and to retain possession at all costs?
It looks that way. I mean, I've got to say, I think the players do look like they're a bit fearful to lose the ball. Modern day games, listen, you know, training changed. When we used to play, it was all five-a-sides and enjoyment about how do you score, how do you create. Now it's about, you know, they do training sessions now where it's 10 passes a goal. Now, if it was 10 passes a goal, we'll win the tournament. But we don't play like that. You've got to put the ball in the net, and we've got to be more positive. And I don't understand. I mean, he brought subs on, and then when we went 2-1 up, I'm thinking, I'll go and win this 3 or 4. You know, they were tired. They were, you know, they were shell-shocked. And I thought, go and make a statement. Go and get 3 or 4.
Yep.
2 attacking players off and put 2 defensive players on.
I couldn't understand the lack of substitutions. Yes, eventually over the course of 120 minutes. What did he do? 3 substitutions?
Yeah. Well, it took right to the end, didn't it? When everybody's crying out for substitutions. Chris, is there anything... I'm looking back on your career and thinking, you know, World Cup and Italian 90, and there's so many slow-burning tournaments that we've been through. I mean, I spoke to Darren Anderton recently about Euro 96, but if we think of 90, it was almost that David Platt goal, wasn't it, against Belgium that sparked the team on, because it was a slow start for you as well, wasn't it?
It was. We started again. The group stage is always a bit nervous. You don't want to go, you know, get beat because you're chasing. Then I think I can understand the little bit of caution in the group stage. But when you get the knockout, I mean, we played Belgium and David Platt's volleys. You say what a great goal that was. You know, all of a sudden we changed the system. We went to 3 at the back. Bobby Robson moved it. The 4-4-2 wasn't working as such. We went to 3 at the back, give a lot more freedom to the players who you wanted on the ball, and it worked. You know,
but that's
we nearly won it.
But that's it, though. You said that he had the nerve to change it. The big thing is Gareth Southgate going to look at what's happened and think, right, now it's time to roll the dice. I've got to change this because it's not working. We need to do something different.
I think he'd go with the same team what started if everybody's fit against Switzerland. And then I think he'll look at it again as the game goes on to think if we goal behind, he'll have to change it. Obviously, if we're goal in front, I wouldn't be surprised if he puts defensive players on. But, you know, we've got some wonderful, talented footballers. But what annoys me is that you're watching certain teams in this tournament and they just go and play it and they go and enjoy it, and they look free. Switzerland look free the way they play. Germany looked free. Spain looked free. We look as if, you know, we look so scared and frightened to do something which you think, if that comes off, we'll score a goal. But we seem very reluctant to do it.
Right. What are the players saying to each other ahead of Switzerland? Do you think there's rumblings going on that they're talking to each other and they say, I want to do this, I want to do that? Will the players be thinking differently from the manager?
Yeah, I think the players, you always get a sort of a group who will sit in a room and start talking about what we should do, what we could do, why don't we do this? I think we had it in 1990 a little bit, but to be fair with Bobby Robson, I think a lot of the players were talking about 3 at the back, and he went with it. I think he thought the players wanted it. I think he felt comfortable with the players we had, and it worked, you know, in a way. And I would say some of these players will probably be saying, you know, I'm playing out of position. Phil Foden, he's not a left winger, the lad. You know, no disrespect. I mean, against the teams we've been playing, you could have played Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden as 2 10s with Declan Rice sat behind, because they can both run. They're not. It's not like you think they're luxury players and they're not going to run back. Them 2 players are very, very fit, and they can get round the pitch like most teams do. So, you know, again, that was a positive. Then he could have brought Anthony Gordon in, who's got pace, who wants to take players on. You know, this is a player who is. Cole Palmer, as soon as he comes on last night, running with the ball and gets you excited. Start Cole Palmer on the right. You know, I think Saka's probably best positioned in the minutes left back. But, you know, if Luke Shaw's fit, great, 100%, brilliant. But I just think that we could affect the game, and, you know, the opposition, when they look at a team sheet, you know, when you see these players I've just mentioned on that team sheet, they'll be like, oh, wow, how do we stop him? How do we stop him? I think, we're a little bit negative.
OK, well, I hope it's different on Saturday. I hope it's a good one.
So do I.
You'll be watching, Chris. And really, thanks for sharing your views with us, mate. Fingers crossed, as you say. Thank you very much indeed, Chris Waddle there. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you,
Have a good
Chris.
day.
Well,
you know what? I speak to fans, ex-players, everybody. Everybody says, let's throw the shackles off, let's go for it. There's only one person that probably disagrees, and that's the manager of the team.
Wow.
So we'll see how we go.
We're going to go for it right after the break.
We've got Dawn Neeson and Oscar Redrop taking us through the papers. See you in a moment.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Recent polling suggests dentistry has become the hardest NHS service for patients to access, within NHS treatments still 15% lower than pre-pandemic levels. So a YouGov survey reveals that more than 70% of Brits describe seeing the dentist as difficult, compared with 64% for GPs and 42% for A&E services. One British man, get this, he even took to flying 10,000 miles for dental care, saying the extra time and money spent was far less hassle than trying to get an appointment on the NHS. I mean, it's a sad state of affairs. And a shocking 1/5 of UK adults have also admitted to trying DIY dentistry, including the old trick of tying string around a wobbly tooth and slamming it in the door so it comes out. So, should people be more careful when taking their teeth into their own hands?
That is one of the problems. Obviously, population growth makes it much more difficult for people to access NHS services, but they need to then catch up on the other side with dental services and increase the amount of dentists and access to dentistry, and especially NHS dentistry, obviously.
What's the cut-off age for free dentistry on the NHS?
So it is 18 years old, but there are exemptions around maternity, pregnancy. There's some free care around pregnancy.
We saw some data a few weeks back about the number one cause for child admission into A&E is tooth decay. I mean, that was shocking when I read it.
It's really bad, and what happens is kids with multiple decayed teeth, they basically have to be put under general anaesthetic, and then all those rotted teeth have to be extracted under general anaesthetic. If those baby teeth start going crooked, then the adult teeth start going crooked as well. Right. So it is important to look after the baby teeth. It's really important. I think they should make it more central to their policies, definitely.
The People's Channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, and unlike you. That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frothy in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice.
Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This election night, we're putting on a party.
And you are invited.
We'll be here with you.
Following all the twists and turns.
As well as all the live reaction from our Election Night Watch Party.
With our GB News lineup.
And as morning breaks, we'll be here with breakfast from 6 a.m.
As it becomes clear who the winners and the losers really are.
Vote 2024.
Thursday, the 4th of July.
Only on GB News.
Britain's election channel.
We're going through the
Dawn
papers
Neeson
now.
and Oscar Redrop for the papers today. Hey, guys, it's nice to see you both in work. Because today
Thank you.
Today is Sick Note Monday.
Yay! And we obviously have turned up because we love our job so much. Yeah, obviously, the little football match going on last night, I don't think anyone really took much notice of it. And today has been dubbed Hangover Monday, the biggest, sickest day of the year, as 1.5 million staff phone in ill and 2 million more take a day's holiday. And a lot of people are suggesting they'll work from home today. Obviously, everyone was... watching, is the polite way of putting it, England playing Slovakia last night, and may have been drowning their sorrows, celebrating. Probably a combination of the both. But 8 million people are working from home today.
Yeah, but this is the second time in a month the Serbian game. It was the same.
Yes, it was the same. It happened, but we are here, and we are loving being here.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it happens after every England game. It's sort of like, win or lose, we hit the booze, don't we?
Does it happen in other countries? Do other countries suddenly notice that nobody's turned up?
Oh, I reckon
Or is it just
so.
a British?
No, I reckon so.
I should think the Germans probably, hang on.
They like a beer, don't they?
But I'm here. I'm all here for it.
And you're not at all hungover, are you, Oscar?
No, not at all. Not bleary-eyed.
not
Was
at
up
all.
very early
No.
this morning. but I kind of mischievously I back it really because we don't get a lot of opportunities to celebrate, and actually I thought yesterday, for all the doom and gloom and criticisms of the performance, which I fully get, but a moment like that when Bellingham scored
that was just
is completely priceless. So everyone who's had a bit too much fun and today are catching up, maybe working from their sofa, I think fair play.
And it does affect the mood of the country.
It does.
It does.
It completely does.
It completely does. You're right, and it does. I mean, you sort of like I woke up this morning and it's like 3 o'clock and it's like, oh, but we're actually we don't deserve to be. And there was a point last night where I was actually supporting Slovakia. Yeah. I was actually thinking, we don't deserve this. You deserve it.
Yeah, no, we didn't deserve it. But just looking forward now. And maybe this is a hopeful message and a bit of optimism, but I think England might win the Euros.
This is the eternal optimism of the West Ham fans.
Well, it is. We were talking about it. Yeah, it's kind of the hope.
Optimism over reality.
But I just think moments like that, they haven't got out of second gear. It's a relatively easy run. What that will have done to the dressing room. I think if we can all just get off their backs a bit, because I think the fans and the media have turned on them, and it has got a bit toxic.
The tactics, mate. The tactics.
Yeah, they are. It is dull, but you can win tournaments by being dull.
Yeah.
There's lots of general election parallels.
Yeah, well, indeed. Rishi's not getting a last-minute winner, though, I'm afraid, Isabel.
Last-minute reprieve, but,
That is absolutely true. You can win an election through being dull, and it looks as though Keir Starmer's
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about Jay Slater. This is, devastating for the family that they've called off the search. But, you can understand there isn't, endless, finite...
It's very strange. Obviously, Jay Slater, the teenager, 19, who's been missing in Tenerife after going to a club and mysteriously ending up in the mountains on the north of the island. 2 weeks, the Spanish police, have been searching for him in the mountains, and suddenly yesterday they announced they're calling an abrupt halt to it. The thing is, Isabel, over here you have family liaison officers, so the family would be kept informed the whole time. This report is the Daily Mail reporter, Guy Adams, who's covering this story very well out there. He actually went to the mum and said, "Oh, did you know they called the search off?" But Jay's mum hadn't even been told that the search had been called off, which I find
is that right? Wow.
Seriously wow. And there are so many unanswered questions about this. Obviously, we're all aware of the conspiracy theories that are online that aren't really helping on social media, but there are so many unanswered questions, like why was he in that part of Tenerife in the first place? In this little sort of Airbnb place in the middle of the mountains. There's unanswered questions about the friends that were out here with him and are now back home and keeping very quiet. The GoFundMe page, which is sort of raised £30,000, I think more than that now. I mean, what that money is being used for. It's just so many unanswered questions. But the horrible thing is we might never, ever know what happened to Jay, and for his family, that just must be awful.
Yeah.
Quite right.
Not much more to add to that, really.
No, it's just one of those mysteries.
What would you add, just looking at the week, the last 4 days, Oscar, to the general election, looking at the various headlines today? What are you taking away from it all?
Well, I think in kind of complete contrast to the Labour Party, who are going to kind of coast and be even more generic and safe than they already have been. I think Rishi's at a point now where he does have to throw the kitchen sink at it, and that's just to avoid, probably what for the Conservatives would be a very disastrously sad night. It's to use the footballing equivalent, it's slinging crosses in the box, it's long throw-ins, it's overhead kicks, just hoping for a last-minute reprieve, and maybe somewhere around the half decent mid 100, I think 130, 140 seats. I think they would very much take it at this stage. But Eamonn and Isabel, I'm sure you've seen countless ministers and pundits, and I just think people, unfortunately for the Tories, have stopped listening. And once voters stop listening and they just go, nah, I'm done with you for a bit, I don't know what kitchen sink there is to throw.
What we haven't stopped listening to over the weekend, Glastonbury. Any of you tuned in?
You're really doing this to wind Damon up, aren't you? You're going to admit it, Isabel. I think we should have a team outing to Glastonbury.
Would you go to Glastonbury?
No, I'd rather poke my eyes out. I'm with you on this one, to be honest with you. I mean, the thought of being in a field with 200,000 other drunk, dirty people just fills me with horror. What I find the problem with Glastonbury is the hypocrisy of it. You know, they're mainly very well-scrubbed, white, middle-class people paying a fortune to go there. They leave the site in a state, and then, you know, we talked about the Banksy inflatable boat with the migrants they were throwing around earlier, missing the hypocrisy of the fact that they have paid a fortune to be behind these great big protective fences. And it's like, you know, it's just... And the other thing, Isabel, that upset me about it was the amount of Palestinian flags that are being waved around. Which, when you think what happened to young women at that festival in Israel back on October the 7th, I thought, you young, pretty, lovely girls with your glitter on your faces, your little hot pants, your little crop tops, if you'd been at that festival in Israel, just think about what happened there. I know you can support Palestine and what's happening in Palestine without supporting Hamas. Yeah. But the two are linked at the moment.
For the vast majority of people, it was about Coldplay, it was about Shania Twain, it was about British traditions.
Exactly. Shania Twain, still the one.
She looks amazing.
Oh my gosh! I mean,
that's a vote winner for me every day of the week. But no, I think Dawn, unfortunately, is kind of right. It puts people like me off, if I'm honest. You know, I mean, I love my music. I love going out to see music when I can. But when art becomes solely politicised, which it often does, it's miserable. I mean, like, politics can be pretty miserable business as it is, and I think people want to go to these things and switch off from it, actually, and escape it.
I reckon the vast majority of people at Glastonbury switched off from politics, I'll be honest. I don't think many of them were thinking
Remember when Jeremy Corbyn went down there a few years ago?
Yeah, you see all sorts
Jeremy
down
Corbyn
there,
rally.
but I think most of them are just there to have a good time, let their hair down, enjoy the summer. And, you know, being on a farm all together, 100,000, incredible atmosphere.
And one of my kind of criteria for working out a person is if they pretend they're too cool to like Coldplay. You know those people who are like, oh, Coldplay, so...
Gosh.
Hit
Chris
after
Martin
hit after hit
is an
after
absolute
hit.
dreamboat as well, and the way he plays on that piano...
Are you a Chris Martin fan?
It's perfect.
Oh, my God.
Eamon's gone very quiet.
He's not a Chris Martin fan or a Shania Twain fan. If it's Elvis, you said you would go, but if it's not Elvis, it's not on. Anyway, we say goodbye to you guys. Yeah, we've never had one. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Oscar. We say good morning, Honor.
Well, whatever you are doing today, hope the weather is going to shine in you. Let's go to Honor Crisp.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, quite a changeable week ahead with some rain and showers. Plenty of dry weather on offer though, where it will feel pleasant as you catch the sunshine. For this morning though, we are going to see quite an unsettled picture as outbreaks of rain spread eastwards across the country. A little bit heavy at times across hills in Scotland. Across the south and southeast though, it should be fairly dry, even starting to see some bright sunshine develop across Wales, Devon and Cornwall. A little bit cloudier in the southeast though, but that's where we'll see the best of the temperatures, highs of around 21 Celsius. Into the evening, we will eventually say goodbye to that rain as it clears off into the North Sea, but it will leave a few dribs and drabs of rain and drizzle across the north of the country. In Scotland, though, a lot drier by the time we reach the evening. A few spots of rain and drizzle across hills, but largely dry. Brightening up across Northern Ireland too, but still some spots of rain and drizzle across the north. This is mainly going to be across hilly areas. Still a bit damp in the northwest of Wales too, the odd shower across East Anglia, but elsewhere some sunshine into the evening before the sun goes down. Through overnight then, generally it is going to be turning drier once those spots of rain and drizzle clear. And once again, there's going to be a mix of cloud and some clearer spells. A fair few showers moving into the northwest of Scotland though, particularly by the time we reach Tuesday morning. Still feeling a little bit cooler under those clear spells, but once again, towns and cities generally remaining in the double digits. For Tuesday then, a bit of a north-south split, starting to see some showers and some longer spells of rain feed into Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, and then later on into northern England and northwest Wales. Once again, the driest of the weather is going to be across the south and southeast parts of the Midlands, and once again, the best of the temperatures are going to be across the southeast. Highs once again around 21 Celsius. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Andy Hilbert with the latest on the roads across the UK this Monday morning. On the northbound M1 in West Yorkshire, traffic slow due to an earlier broken down vehicle. At junction 40 for Otterton Wakefield, the M11 northbound in Essex, a lane closure on the exit slip road there due to a broken down vehicle at junction 7 at Harlow. And in Bristol, the M32 north, a lane closed there due to a broken down vehicle. At junction 2 for Eastville, also in Bristol on the eastbound M4, the exit slip to the M5 is partially blocked due to emergency barrier repairs. At junction 20 for the M5 for the Almesbury interchange. And in Staffordshire, the northbound M6 very slow due to an earlier accident, junction 14 for Stafford North to junction 15 for the D Road at Stoke-on-Trent. And in Glasgow, the M8 eastbound, long delays and a lane block due to a broken down vehicle just near to junction 19 at the minute, around Anderston Cross to junction 18 for Charing Cross this morning. You're up to date.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
It's our summer treat to you. Your chance to win an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Our biggest cash prize of the year so far. With an extra £30,000 in your bank account this year, you could take the ultimate financial holiday and send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. £30,000 could get you those nagging home improvements done, buy that brand new car, or just enable you to kick back and relax for the rest of the year. For a chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tominey. And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, our GB News viewers and listeners, for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. England keeps the dream alive.
Just about. It was a nail-biting victory. It sent England to the quarterfinals.
As Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane strike to save the day.
Well, let's be honest, it's never an easy watch, is it? For 94 minutes and 35 seconds, football was not coming home. England were. But it takes great players to change things, and Jude Bellingham scored an amazing overhead kick, took the game into extra time, and then 1 minute into that, skipper Harry Kane got the winner. It's Switzerland next in the quarterfinals on Saturday, if your nerves can take it.
Protests begin in Paris as Emmanuel Macron is humiliated by the French right's surge in their first round of election voting.
Rishi Sunak turns up the heat on reform as he battles Nigel Farage over undecided voters.
Lost without a trace. Jay Slater's family left distraught as Spanish police call off the search.
Hello, a wet start across Scotland, Northern Ireland and parts of northern England. You can put away the raincoats in the south though, with plenty of dry weather on the cards. Stay tuned for the details.
Hello there, just gone 1 minute past 9 o'clock. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Going to sum up England last night. Were you watching?
Yeah, I was watching. I would say it was a bit of a snooze fest. And then I would say, as a complete layperson, it was an incredible kick from Jude Bellingham.
Yeah, it certainly was. It reminded me, Paul, of Man United in 1999 against Bayern Munich, the European Cup final. I mean, it was all going against them, and then we got one and we got two. And that's what England did.
It was very much like that. And there's nothing like a late winner, is there? I mean, there's because of the tension.
It wasn't a winner. It wasn't.
You're right. You're right.
But it took them.
Absolutely. Although I was saying there's nothing like a late winner. That wasn't a winner, but that was a drawer. But a late goal.
It kept them in it.
Absolutely. See, the thing is, I've got a confession to make.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of England fans that feel the same way. And it's weird. And I can't get my head round the fact that I was at the point thinking, just lose. When you see Slovakia, this is so weird.
You just wanted it over?
I don't know. I was watching Slovakia go forward and I was so disappointed and so annoyed with the way England were playing. There's part of me that thinks,
they didn't
just bring it on. Just bring it on. This is what you deserve. And I hate feeling that way.
You sent me a text saying, this is awful, I can't watch this.
Yeah.
You were really going through it.
I was really going through it. And then, of course, once Bellingham scored, that's when you know, actually, yeah, of course I won. There's Jude Bellingham there. There's the celebration with Harry Kane, because Harry Kane scored the goal that was the winner. That was 1 minute into extra time. And it just shows great players change matches. I hate all these cliches, but they're absolutely true. And it was down to these two boys to do it.
That was where the momentum was.
That's where the momentum.
But why do they leave it so late? You know, why couldn't these great players pull it out the bag a little bit earlier on?
There was an
just
answer
to save our nails.
They were. I mean, you know, we were all thinking, we were watching there, thinking they're out. They're going.
Well, it's
home.
Southgate's fault, right? That's what you guys have kind of concluded.
Well, I don't think he was inspirational. No. I don't think he was positive, and I don't think he made enough substitutions. That would be me.
When you just see the amount of talent that's playing for England against Slovakia, they're rated 47 in the world. They've got two fullbacks. They're 37 years old each. And they're playing, some of them are playing in the second division of the Slovakian league. This should be a walkover. It should be, but it's a team game. And when teams play well together...
I think, Paul, that the England thing starts because they believe they haven't got a left-back. I believe right from the start they're compensating for not having a left back. Luke Shaw is not available, still not available to them. I don't know if he's going to be available on Saturday. But I think it starts from that, and then it's all about hold on to the ball, don't give it away, don't make a mistake, instead of just play football.
They look nervous.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you see good players giving the ball away. It's nerves. Something is not right. You know, it's interesting to hear what fans think. And I know there was a fan park in Bristol. Some of them, I think, were happy, and I think a lot weren't. This is what Jeff Moody, when he spoke to some of the fans after the game yesterday.
Bicycle kick, man of the match for me. You get me? And so, before the bicycle kick, before he equalised, he was still your man of the match. Oh no. Before that one, there. Give it to one of the Slovakian players. Give the best player again to the Slovakian players. Before that.
You know, we're England. Like, respectfully, we should be easily disposing of teams like Slovakia. So yeah, I was confident. Even though we haven't had a great start to the tournament, I thought we were going to play a lot better than we did.
Like, we'll probably leave in a minute. Like, you know, that was about the 95th minute, and then all of a sudden everyone went crazy, and it was great. And you know, it's always nice to score a last-minute goal. It's nice to score it early, but it's also fun to celebrate a last-minute win.
Probably do need to change something. It's not worked 3 games on a bounce. Hasn't worked today until the 90th minute. We can't say the team selection's working if it's coming the 90th minute. So we've got to change something.
It was late, but worth waiting for.
Yep, everybody wants the same thing. Switzerland on Saturday needs to be better, and we're still in it.
5 o'clock on Saturday. Thank you very much indeed. Shadow Paymaster General Jonathan Ashworth this morning. We go to him live right now. Were you watching last night, Jonathan?
Last night, yeah. I mean, but I think what it tells you is you keep playing until the final whistle is blown, and that's what we are focusing on in this campaign. And here's another football line that you will like, Eamonn. This is now the squeaky bum time of the campaign. I'm not a Man United fan like you, but this is the squeaky bum time. And if GB News viewers, if they want change, if they've had enough of waiting longer for NHS treatment, if they've had enough of all the scandals from the partying in Downing Street to now the gambling scandal, and if they've had enough of being clobbered with the higher mortgages, you've got to come out and vote Labour on Thursday. Don't wake up to 5 more years of Rishi Sunak on Friday.
Do you have these pillows that I hear that are being given out, a Keir Starmer pillow? Have you got one of these, or do you know about this?
I've seen them. I mean, they're not very. I actually made me jump when I saw it. We can send you one if you want, Eamonn. But look, the serious message we're getting across is there are lots of people who are still deciding. Lots of people still weighing up their options. But honestly, if you want to change this country, you've got to come out and vote Labour. Voting for any of the other parties helps Rishi Sunak get re-elected. So if you don't want to switch on GB News on Friday morning and hear that Rishi Sunak has been re-elected, if you don't want to wake up to that, vote Labour on Thursday.
I want to talk about France and tie it into what's happening on Thursday as well. We've seen Marine Le Pen decisively, sending a message to Macron in the first round there. And at the front of The Guardian this morning says that Labour can stem the populist threat that we're seeing across Europe as well. He says by improving lives. But then we also have 60 economists who've signed a joint letter saying that there's going to be stagnation under whether it's the Conservatives or Labour come Friday morning. So how are you going to improve lives, given that you've given yourselves such fiscal rules, tight fiscal rules dealing with national debt? You've insisted there'll be no taxation on workers. How are you going to improve lives?
Well, first of all, those fiscal rules are very important because we saw what happened with Liz Truss and the Conservatives when they shot the public finances to pieces, and it means your viewers are paying more on their mortgage as a consequence. We've got a detailed plan, though, to grow our economy. We've had terrible growth under the Tories these last 14 years. If you grow the economy, you create good, well-paid jobs for people, you raise living standards, that's not only good for the country as a whole, it also means the public finances are in a better position. So we think we can turn the corner on this. We don't have to carry on with the 14 years of failure and chaos we've had. Nothing will change if Rishi Sunak gets back in on Thursday night, Friday morning. But if you want to grow the economy, create good, well-paid jobs, raise living standards, vote Labour on Thursday.
You can't tell me, you say this is squeaky bum time. You can't tell me your bum's squeaky this week. 20-point lead.
But people are still making up their minds. People are still weighing it up. And look, this isn't a done deal. You know, the Tories could still do something here, so you've got to come out. If you want to stop the Tories, if you've had enough of the gambling scandals, where it's one rule for the Tories, another for the rest of us, if you had enough of waiting longer and longer on an NHS waiting list for treatment, you've got to come out and vote Labour. If you've had enough of seeing your family finances squeezed and clobbered year after year, you've got to come out and vote Labour. Do not wake up to Rishi Sunak on Friday. You know, if you don't want that, how will you feel in your stomach if you switch on GB News and you're saying Rishi Sunak's re-elected? How will you feel? If you don't want that feeling, vote Labour on Thursday.
And if you've had enough of the green belt, vote Labour, because I suppose if you were to come up with a mantra for Starmer, we had education, education, education with Blair. It's build, build, build with Starmer, as it doesn't matter where.
Well, we are going to build houses. I mean, you know, there's people on their 30s who still can't get on the housing ladder. If we carry on like this, there'll be people in their 40s, even 50s, who can't get on the housing ladder. Look, there's lots of brownfield sites across the country. Everybody will have seen it in their local communities. It's usually an area which is overgrown, surrounded by fencing. We should be building on those sites. But there are areas of the country which we've called the grey belt, like old petrol stations, which are now designated green belt, and you can't build on them. That's bananas. We should be building homes on brownfield sites first and these grey belt areas so young people can get on the housing ladder. Young people are trapped out of the dream of home ownership in this country. We want people to own property and to get on the housing ladder. So we will be building homes for people, absolutely.
Rishi Sunak's comments yesterday that Vladimir Putin will be hoping for a Labour win.
Oh, isn't it desperate? Isn't it desperate from Rishi Sunak?
Well, can Labour be trusted to keep us safe?
yes, the defence of this country will always come first. Absolutely, that is our priority. Under Rishi Sunak, the army has been hollowed out, I think, to the smallest it's been to the times of Napoleon. We're not going to take any lessons from Rishi Sunak on defending this country.
But you haven't committed to 2.5% of GDP, which the Conservatives have, to be spent on our forces.
Well, first of all, you can't believe that promise from Rishi Sunak because it's based on sacking a few civil servants in Whitehall. That's not a serious plan for defence. That's more like a wing and a prayer. We've said we'll put ourselves on the path towards 2.5%. But look, let me reassure you. A Labour government created NATO back in the day, or was part of creating NATO back in the day. We are always going to put defence of the United Kingdom and the people who live there as our #1 priority.
There's lots of talk at the moment about a supermajority and lots of predictions that Sir Keir Starmer, who is not the most dynamic of leaders, will struggle to keep the party together. And we're beginning to see some of those cracks already, particularly around the issue of the benefit cap on children. Gordon Brown also saying he wants to see more action on child poverty. Has the party chosen wealthy pensioners over children?
Look, first of all, there's lots of pensioners who are not wealthy. There are more pensioners now in poverty. More pensioners have gone into poverty under the Conservatives. And of course, there's more pensioners whose quality of life is materially impacted because they're waiting so long for a hip replacement or a knee replacement. And some of them are faced with the impossible choice of having to pay for a hip replacement. So we'll always stand up for Britain's pensioners. But we'll also have a big strategy to tackle child poverty. For example, we're going to deliver free breakfast clubs in every primary school, so children start school not hungry, but with a breakfast in their belly. So that is some of the decisions that we will take, tackling child poverty, yes, and standing up for our pension as well. It's not an either or, you can do both.
I think that phrase should be banned, wealthy pensioners. If they're wealthy pensioners, I've yet to meet them. But it absolutely, really offends me when I hear that. Jonathan Ashworth, thank you. Good to hear from you, and good luck with that squeaky bum of yours. You get that seen too. Thank you very much indeed.
Right, time for the Great British Giveaway, and it is a big one. Time to win a whopping £30,000 in tax-free
That would make you a wealthy
cash.
pensioner. Well, it's a chance to have a go, because this is the biggest prize we have offered in the giveaway to date.
£30,000 in tax-free cash really could be yours. It's our biggest cash prize of the year so far, and you could be getting that winning call from us to tell you that you're our next Great British Giveaway winner.
You're joking? Really? Seriously? It's not a wind-up, is it?
I'm slipping neck. Oh dear.
Oh my God! This is amazing!
I'm in shock. Like I said, I've never won anything like this. That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon. Thank you!
For a chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Still to come, today is a very special day because Balmoral Castle is opening up to the public for the very first time, and we will be there. Stay with us for that.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This election night, we're putting on a party.
And you are invited.
We'll be here with you.
Following all the twists and turns.
As well as all the live reaction from our election night watch party.
With our GB News lineup.
And as morning breaks, we'll be here with breakfast from 6 a.m.
As it becomes clear who the winners and the losers really are.
Vote 2024.
Thursday, the 4th of July.
Only on GB News.
Britain's election channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Wiltshire police have arrested 2 people after they sprayed orange paint on Stonehenge.
Well, Just Stop Oil have shared a video saying it's to get the incoming government to sign up to a legally binding treaty to phase out fossil fuels by 2030. Of course, Stonehenge famously associated with oil, gas. I think the 5,000-year-old Neolithic Britons were prolific users of the internal combustion engine, and they drilled for lots of oil, so it makes perfect sense, of course.
Yes, we're going to be joined by Jill Taylor, a spokesperson from Just Stop Oil. Jill, thank you very much indeed. What on earth is this all about? This is just criminal activity under the guise of some kind of activism.
No, it's not. That paint will be washed off really easily. So it's not long-lasting damage at all, unlike the damage that is being done now by the fossil fuel industry and just keeping burning fossil fuels, putting more CO2 into the atmosphere. You're right, the Neolithic people were not prolific users of fossil fuels. They did not cause the kind of damage that we're causing now. That's all been within since the Industrial Revolution in the 150 years.
So because
this is when the damage has been done.
So because this stuff can be washed off, ergo there's no issue here. Well, Stonehenge aren't particularly happy about this. They've come out on their social media page and they say Stonehenge is protected by the Ancient Monuments Act and it is a criminal offence to damage the stones. There are also multiple rare lichen species growing on the stones that are also protected. So this isn't good for nature, is it?
I think you're getting things so out of perspective here. What isn't good for nature is the damage we're doing now, and what's not good for nature globally is not good for you, it's not good for me, and it's not good for the people watching this programme.
The People's Channel.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party.
Now, Balmoral Castle, interesting part of the world. The royal family, the Queen used to spend much of her summers there, but the doors will open to you, the public, today, and there will be guided tours for the first time in over 170 years.
Yes, and visitors can take a guided tour of the number of rooms in the Aberdeenshire Castle, where successive monarchs since Queen Victoria have been able to relax and recharge. Let's speak to Tony Maguire, who I believe is just outside the castle there on the River Dee. Listen, good morning to you. I suppose there's a particular poignancy with Balmoral Castle because it is, of course, where the late Queen took her last breaths and did leave this world. And so there's a sort of insight that people will get from going inside the castle today.
Yes, good morning. I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, certainly for decades upon decades, Balmoral Castle was seen as the home from the late Queen Elizabeth. Certainly people spoke continuously and very highly of her great love for the northeast of Scotland, not just here in Balmoral and on the castle estate, but also down the road in Ballater, the town most local to here, and indeed the other direction would be Braemar, and in these communities the Queen really found herself in her happy place for so many years. Lots of great anecdotes coming out of people who have attended the barbecues, etc. here over summer, and while there might not be any sausages on the grill this time round, over this summer there's going to be around about 50 different tours over the course from now until August, and each day 40 people are going to be lucky enough to set foot inside Balmoral Castle to get a real sense of the King's interior design tastes. Now, we've got quite a lot of notes for some of the choices we've made. We know, for example, that the King has a great love for the hunting Stuart tartan, and he has changed a lot of the original carpets in the castle to reflect that. We also know that he has a great love for the painter, Sir Edwin Henry Landseer, who Queen Victoria actually had hung paintings for as well inside Balmoral Castle. And you know, even though, as I said, they will be relatively short tours, I think there's going to be quite a hot supply or quite hot demand to set foot inside the castle, as well as seeing the grounds that have always opened to the public around this time each year. So certainly some people are going to have a very grateful day up in this beautiful part of the world this morning.
I would love to have a little nose around that. I've been up to Balmoral, walked the estate and spent many, many happy holidays along the River Dee. Never been inside. I would give anything to go inside, so that's fantastic. Tony, thank you very much indeed.
So Balmoral or Glastonbury?
Balmoral every time.
Andrew and Bev from 9:30. Morning, guys. What are you doing?
Morning. Not recovering from Glastonbury. That's my idea of hell, going to Glastonbury.
Yeah, mine too.
Oh,
we're all together here.
Oh.
Yeah, no.
Isabel wants to be there.
No. I've been there. I've done that. Don't want to do it anymore.
I have been. It was horrific. I'll never go again. What are we talking about this morning? Well, we're going to be reflecting on this French election, what that means politically, what that might mean for us.
Another leader calls an election early that they didn't need to call. Horribly backfired.
Yeah.
It's not over yet,
Any echoes here?
Yeah, not over though.
Strange, isn't it, that they can go halfway through it, and then they can say, let's all look at that and see what we think, and then continue with it again.
I know.
Yeah.
Amazing. It is extraordinary.
We got David Davis coming in the studio this morning. We are...
Got a good story from the Welsh Parliament, which could become the first in the world to bring in a law to make it illegal for anyone to tell a lie in the Welsh Parliament. So if they're caught, I mean, how you enforce it?
Is that not the case in Parliament?
It's not against the law. It's against the rules of the House, but not against the... They'll make it a criminal offence. It'll be the first time...
I think that's brilliant.
Yeah. Good luck enforcing it.
Yeah, how do you prove it?
There could be quite a long queue of potential candidates to be feeling the collar of their majesty.
Could they not argue parliamentary privilege?
Yeah, well, that...
We're allowed to lie.
Well, we've got Sam Fowles, who's a brilliant barrister, and will explain beautifully what that's about. Yeah. And we've got a world record-breaking, hopefully, Craig Wood, 33, who is a triple amputee, who was injured in Afghanistan in 2009, and he's going to be sailing from Mexico to Japan from January, so he's coming in to tell us all about that.
Oh, wow.
Amazing.
Whether it was an amputee or able-bodied, I still wouldn't want
to
see from Mexico across the ocean like that. Guys, thank you very much indeed.
Forward to it.
We're looking forward to seeing you from 9:30. Bev and Andrew there. We just want to say to you, thank you for watching today. We will be back from 6 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and you've got, of course, Andrew and Bev at 9:30 as always. But in the meantime, let's take one last look at your weather forecast, because it's been so gorgeous over the Glastonbury weekend, hasn't it?
Good day today.
Looked a little bit chilly up in Balmoral. Let's find out, shall we, from Honor, exactly what the weather's going to be up to for you today.
Have a good day.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, quite a changeable week ahead with some rain and showers. Plenty of dry weather on offer though, where it will feel pleasant as you catch the sunshine. For this morning though, we are going to see quite an unsettled picture as outbreaks of rain spread eastwards across the country. A little bit heavy at times across hills in Scotland. Across the south and southeast though, it should be fairly dry, even starting to see some bright sunshine develop across Wales, Devon and Cornwall. A little bit cloudier in the southeast though, but that's where we'll see the best of the temperatures, highs of around 21 Celsius. Into the evening, we will eventually say goodbye to that rain as it clears off into the North Sea, but it will leave a few dribs and drabs of rain and drizzle across the north of the country. In Scotland, though, a lot drier by the time we reach the evening. A few spots of rain and drizzle across hills, but largely dry. Brightening up across Northern Ireland too, but still some spots of rain and drizzle across the north. This is mainly going to be across hilly areas. Still a bit damp in the northwest of Wales too, the odd shower across East Anglia, but elsewhere some sunshine into the evening before the sun goes down. Through overnight then, generally it is going to be turning drier once those spots of rain and drizzle clear. And once again, there's going to be a mix of cloud and some clearer spells. A fair few showers moving into the northwest of Scotland though, particularly by the time we reach Tuesday morning. Still feeling a little bit cooler under those clear spells, but once again, towns and cities generally remaining in the double digits. For Tuesday then, a bit of a north-south split, starting to see some showers and some longer spells of rain feed into Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, and then later on into Northern England and northwest Wales. Once again, the driest of the weather is going to be across the south and southeast, parts of the Midlands, and once again, the best of the temperatures are going to be across the southeast. Highs once again around 21 Celsius. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Andy Hilbert with the latest across the UK on a Monday morning. And in West Yorkshire, the northbound M1 moving a lot better now following the earlier broken down vehicle. At junction 40 for Osterton Wakefield, the northbound M11 in Essex is partially blocked due to an accident. That's junction 8 for Bishop Stortford to junction 9 at Saffron Walden. And in Bristol at the minute on the M4 eastbound, the exit slip road to the M5 south is partially blocked due to emergency barrier repairs at junction 20 for the Almesbury interchange. In Staffordshire, the northbound M6 moving a lot better following the earlier accident. Junction 14 Stafford North to junction 15 for the D road at Stoke. And in Greater Manchester, the anti-clockwise M60, all traffic temporarily being held due to a broken down vehicle. Junction 19 for the Hinton Park 3 hours roundabout to junction 18 for the M66 at Sinister Island. As you'd imagine, traffic's looking very heavy there on the anti-clockwise side of the M60 in Greater Manchester. You're up to date.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, weekdays from 9 p.m.